Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Life and CSE with Navya. This session is about how to strategize for the next year's civil service examination, which is going to be held in the year 2027. So a few days back, I had asked some of the students to fill up a Google form and express their queries and doubts with respect to the preparation for the CSE 2027. So this session is structured around the answer to those queries and doubts. Of course, some of the queries were very specific, which cannot be discussed in a general way, and it requires one-to-one mentorship for that. But rest of them, which were common, related to answer writing and how to prepare, note making and all, time management, optional, all that I have endeavored to discuss today. So let's start the session. Now, the first important aspect is, of course, the timeline. Why? Because we need to understand that we are approximately 1 year away from our prelims examination. So we need to understand that your next 11, 12 months should look like what, right? The second, of course, would be optional. I'll be picking up the discussion towards GS papers, how to prepare that, how to prepare current affairs, should we include newspapers or not, how to do note making, of course, how to deal with previous year questions, and even learn a little bit about answer writing. Because of course, a detailed answer writing requires a separate session. I'll just give you a little bit, introduction about answer writing and how you should approach it. Then towards the very end, there'll be a little bit discussion on plan B. And if you're securing or if you're going for plan B, then how much time should be devoted? Because ultimately the plan A is UPSC CSE, right? Okay, so let's focus on the timeline aspect first. Now, I told you that you have 11 to 12 months. Of course, not being very specific with the dates, but yeah, going with the aspect of the month distribution. So what you can understand is that first period is your months of June, July, August, September. Now, usually I tell my students that even if you're preparing for next year, imagine that you're appearing with the students of this year only. That is, you're going to write your mains in the month of August. If your preparation is around that level, that you can prepare every part, every aspect of the syllabus within these 3 months, June, July, August, it's good. You can actually simulate the real mains paper. You can write all the answers as a test. But some of the students, I understand, maybe they are preparing for the mains for the first time, 3 months, and especially because we are today is 12th June, so already 12 days have been passed. So yes, maybe they will not be able to cover every aspect of the syllabus, GS and optional both, in 3 months. So for them, what I've tried to divide is that you include September month also for your preparation. So June, July, August, September is devoted for pure mains preparation. Okay, and it is very essential that you complete at least one round of all GS 4 papers, GS 1, 2, 3, 4, and your optional papers 2, paper 1 and paper 2. The months of October, November, you can use for revision, and you can also add value, because sometimes when you prepare, you understand that you missed something, or you prepared a topic, but it was not holistic, it was not comprehensive. It is lacking that wow element. It is lacking that content enrichment which everybody talks about, which you find even in the topper's answer copy. So October, November, you can actually use this time to go for answer writing, even revision, and add value wherever you feel that maybe your answers are not so impressive and they're not going to fetch high score. Okay, especially October, November are crucial months, because we tend to get a lot of festivals. You've got Durga Puja, Navratri happening, then of course Diwali also happening, and because of that, sometimes the students tend to waste a lot of time. So yes, that is why yes, September month is the deadline to cover everything, but then use October, November, depending on how much time you're investing in the festivals. Apart from that, you have to go for revision and value addition. Coming to the months of December, January, February, yes, you can study mains. I get every year the same question कि किस महीने तक हमें मेंस पढ़ना चाहिए. देखो, this is very individual based answer, generalize नहीं कर सकते हैं. But yes, keeping in mind that mains of course has greater weightage, उसके ही मार्क्स आपको इंटरव्यू तक पहुंचाते हैं, वही ही आपको रैंक दिलाते हैं, बिकॉज प्रीलिम्स इज जस्ट क्वालिफाइंग, राइट? Its marks is not added. So keeping in mind that aspect, at least till January you should be studying mains. But some students who are maybe comfortable with prelims, or they feel that I can manage my mains and pre together, ideally little bit of mains preparation you can stretch even till February. So December, January, February, you can study both mains and prelims. Please understand that till November I have given you the time for pure mains. From December onwards, and especially keeping in mind the kind of paper that we got this year for prelims, you cannot take it for granted. So from December onwards, you have to start your prelims examination preparation. Okay, so divide your time. ठीक है, मेंस दिसंबर जनवरी फरवरी में मेंस प्री के बीच आप अपना टाइम डिवाइड करो. कैसे कर सकते हो? जैसे मान लो फॉर एग्जांपल ऑन एन एवरेज इफ यू आर स्टडिंग फॉर 10 hours, then what you can do is maybe 6 hours you're devoting for mains, 4 hours for prelims. किस मंथ में? दिसंबर में. So December, if I'm studying for 10 hours, 6 hours I'll devote for mains, and I'll start my prelims preparation with devotion of 4 hours at least. Then in the month of January, I can do the same thing in 50-50. So I'm studying 10 hours, or if you're studying for 12 hours, divide it into 50-50. That means 6 hours for your mains, 6 hours for your prelims. And in the month of February, switch it in the reverse manner. That is 4 hours for your mains and 6 hours for your prelims, right? Now, if you're a student who would be, maybe you have appeared in 26 prelims and you're not qualifying, and now you have developed a fear of prelims, you want to devote more time, then yes, of course you can do so. But then for you, November is the deadline to cover all of mains. And from December, if you want to actually shift into 40-60 ratio, that is 6 hours for prelims and 4 hours for mains, you can do that from December itself. Also, from December onwards, many coaching institutes start launching their sectional tests, right? You have heard of various names. I cannot take the names over here, but yeah, you are already aware of those programs. So December, in a way, as per the industry and as per, you could say the general best approach is that at least something of the prelims need to be started from December onwards. So yes, if you are a student who's having a fear of prelims, especially after the debacle of the 26 prelims paper, you need to start your prelims from December. There will be courses getting launched in the month of October. I would not recommend that. See, because what we have seen, I understand that prelims day by day, year by year is becoming difficult to crack. But you do understand that even if you crack it by 10 marks, or if you crack it by 0.661 marks, still you're getting the chance to write mains. And when you write mains, when you get that chance and opportunity, you actually forget about that, what is, like how much time you should be devoting for prelims, or how prelims was, an important area or important obstacle for you. Ultimately, mains ke hi marks judte hain. So mains is the real fight and the battle. ठीक है. So prelims चाहे कितना भी difficult हो, if you can study from December, still you can crack. Some people start studying from February. Yes, that is also. But I would never recommend कि बहुत delay करके हम prelims की preparation start करें. At least something or the other should be started from December, and February onwards तो आप full-fledged में shift हो सकते हो, right? So even if prelims is becoming tougher day by day, ऐसा नहीं है कि हम 12 months prelims ही पढ़ेंगे, या अक्टूबर onwards ही बहुत सारे courses launch होने शुरू हो जाएंगे तो हम उनको join कर लेंगे. ठीक है? That is what you are supposed to remember. Okay, just give me a moment. I'll just cross-check something. I hope the voice and all that is getting recorded. Okay, resharing my PPT. Okay, so we were discussing the timeline, right? Okay, now come to the aspect of optional. And because I don't have the expertise in optional, I don't teach any optional. But still, when I do GS mentorship, before I talk to any of my student, I always ask about their optional subject. I always ensure that are they preparing for option or not. Why? Because even if you prepare GS thoroughly, your strong point is GS, prelims means both. Still, if you're not completed your optional syllabus, you have not prepared your optional well, getting an interview call is very difficult. So your optional paper 1, paper 2, 500 marks combined is very important. Okay. How would you approach your optional irrespective of whatever it is? It is humanities, it is physics, it is maths, it is, geography, it is psychology, it is anthro, socio, doesn't really matter. You have a syllabus, right? You have to ensure that in the next 2 to 3 months or 2.5 months, that is at least till August end, your 80% of the optional syllabus needs to be covered. So syllabus coverage plus notes, that is the basic first step. That is the foundation of your optional preparation. So syllabus पूरा complete करना है. अगर पूरा आप complete नहीं कर सकते हो, because in every optional, especially in paper 2, you get certain type of subject or syllabus topics which is very current oriented. So maybe you think that even if I prepare it today, I still have to go for the accumulation of more knowledge and more content later on also. That's fine. तो आप 80% लेके चलो. 75 to 80% would be static part of the syllabus which you need to cover. And even if it's having correlation with current affairs or contemporary issues, still I would recommend, don't wait for the last moment to prepare that. You prepare some basic issues and then of course add value later on. So at least 75 to 80% of the syllabus, and especially the static part, needs to be covered. You need to have your own notes for it. Okay? Subject wise, that means paper 1, paper 2. Topic wise, आपके पास notes होने चाहिए. Okay? Some coaching institutes, they teach you the subject, they teach you themes, but they don't deal with every single topic. I'm not being specific for one optional, but I'm saying in a very generalized way. कभी कभी कुछ optional teachers कोई एक दो topic leave करवा देते हैं. They are like, ठीक है, ये बाद में पढ़ा देंगे, ये crash course में पढ़ा देंगे. Of course, that is their own method of conducting their classes. की foundation है, फिर crash course है, test series है. So they try to divide it, but you will not be dependent on them. If you're covering your syllabus, as far as possible, cover each and every topic, each and every word mentioned in the syllabus. Right now, you've got, the Google search, you've got AIs, helping you out, ChatGPT, Claude, take help of it, but generate some content. Don't wait कि crash course जब करेंगे तब करेंगे, या when I'll be writing means then I will do it. No, of course, the later part when you're actually writing the means, like for the 26 students जो अभी ये वाले months चल रहे हैं, जून जुलाई अगस्त, of course ये value addition के लिए तो है ही, ये practice करने के लिए है ही. बट अगर आप जानबूझ के अपने syllabus को छोड़ते जा रहे हो, that I'll be seeing that part of the syllabus when I qualify for mains, you're doing a blunder, you're doing a big mistake. So जितना possible है इस तरफ ही cover कर लो, ठीक है? Imagine that you're writing mains with the mains of the 26 people only, ताकि आपका syllabus notes prepared रहे, ठीक है? Whenever you're preparing a subject, paper 1, paper 2, any topic, please have a look at the previous year questions. बहुत जरूरी है क्योंकि कुछ topics straightforward होते हैं, but the kind of questions getting asked in that particular optional subject is not very straightforward. Maybe they are picking up two different topics and then combining them and then presenting as a question. So you need to have cross connections. You need to have cross linkages. The understanding of कि paper 1 को paper 2 में कैसे apply करना है, paper 2 को paper 1 में कैसे apply करना है, and that you'll be able to understand only when you have the understanding of PYQs. Right? कि कैसे recent years से पूछे जा रहे हैं. If you're able to cover 10 years, very nice. But at least prioritize recent 5-6 years की. Especially I would say 2020 onwards, आपको जितने भी questions मिलते हैं आपके optional में, please write it down. With previous year questions, it's not just about analysis कि सिर्फ पढ़ लेना है और समझ लेना है कि क्या पूछा है. Of course, उसको लिखना है. The third block that you can see is that answer writing, PYQs, right? So answer writing दो type के हो सकते हैं. One which is part of the test series, any official test series or any test series that you're joining, even some initiatives like daily answer writing programs चलते हैं optional के भी, तो वो answer writing आपका एक अलग हो जाता है. But the one which is very compulsory, which is sort of that you can't negotiate around it, writing PYQs. And I do understand कि 10 साल के PYQs लिखना शायद मुश्किल हो, but you need to ensure कि at least recent 5-6 सालों के आप जरूर लिख लो. ठीक है? When you write it down, you start understanding the framework. एक skeleton बनते जाता है, दिमाग में एक framework बनते जाता है कि अगर similar type of question आएगा, for example, maybe they have asked in the last 5-6 years only 3 to 4 thinkers only. ठीक है, 3 to 4 थिंकर्स उन्होंने कुछ पूछा पर्टिकुलर वे में, मे बी देयर थ्योरी एंड देयर एप्लीकेशन फॉर योर पर्टिकुलर सब्जेक्ट, पर्टिकुलर ऑप्शनल। बट हो सकता है कि वो नेक्स्ट फ्यू ईयर्स में, अपकमिंग ईयर्स में, 26 में, 27 में कुछ नए टाइप ऑफ थिंकर्स पूछ लें। सो विद दैट पर्सपेक्टिव कि जो ऑलरेडी आपके पीवाईक्यूज में जो थिंकर्स थे, उनके ही फ्रेमवर्क्स को दिमाग में रख के यू कैन प्रिपेयर द न्यू सेट ऑफ थिंकर्स, न्यू सेट ऑफ कॉन्सेप्ट्स, राइट? सो ये चीज ध्यान में रखना है। PYQs इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। व्हाट आई हैव अंडरस्टूड इज दैट इन द रीसेंट इयर्स ऑप्शनल में, स्पेशली ह्यूमैनिटीज बेस्ड ऑप्शंस में, यूपीएससी थोड़ा सा ऑफ कोर्स ट्रिकी कर दे रहा है। समटाइम्स दे आर मेकिंग पेपर 1, पेपर 2 डिफिकल्ट, एंड स्पेशली द कंपल्सरी क्वेश्चंस। क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 and 5 आर कंपल्सरी, आई होप यू नो दैट। ऑप्शनल में आपको ऑप्शंस भी मिलते हैं, जैसे GS 1 to 3 4 में all the 20 questions are compulsory. In optional subject it's not like that. So question number 1 and 5 is compulsory, but the later जो second, third, fourth, ये जो blocks of questions होते हैं, इनमें आपको choose करना पड़ता है each section में से। So that is also very important कि क्या question choose करना है, क्या question choose नहीं करना है। and कुछ compulsory questions जैसे question number 1 and 5 usually UPSC थोड़ा सा आजकल tricky कर दे रहा है। tricky in the sense that maybe it is asking दोज काइंड ऑफ टॉपिक्स जिसका आपको सिर्फ डेफिनेशन पता है या जो आपने पढ़ा है, इट इज वेरी लिमिटेड, नॉट इवन इक्वल टू 2 or 5 marks ऑफ कंटेंट, बट उन्होंने वो 10 marks में पूछ लिया है। सो दैट्स हाउ दे आर प्लेइंग इट अराउंड, और मे बी समटाइम्स दे आर आस्किंग द एप्लीकेशन इन द कंटेम्प्रेरी टाइम्स कि आजकल के इश्यूज में वो पर्टिकुलर कॉन्सेप्ट कैसे फिट इन होता है। This is all you would understand with the help of PYQs. Take help of ChatGPT, take help of Claude, Gemini, whatever you want to. Give it, train it with your prompts so that they tend to give you nice answers, ready-made answers for such kind of tricky questions जो आपके static syllabus या आपके standard textbooks and notes में available नहीं है, ठीक है? Now, of course, you also need to understand कि हर student, अगर मैं किसी पर्टिकुलर ऑप्शनल की बात करूं, एंथ्रो, सोशियो, PSIR फॉर दैट मैटर, सो वी डू नो कि हर कोचिंग या हर ऑप्शनल का एक पर्टिकुलर कोचिंग बहुत फेमस हो चुका है, राइट? I don't want to take names, you do understand what I'm talking about. So for every subject, for every optional subject, there is one particular coaching which has become very famous. Now the problem is most of the students opting for that optional are going into that coaching. सेम मटेरियल, सेम कंटेंट पढ़ रहे हैं, सेम नोट्स लिख भी रहे हैं, सेम टाइप ऑफ क्रैश कोर्स कर रहे हैं, सेम टाइप ऑफ टेस्ट सीरीज कर रहे हैं, सेम टाइप ऑफ मॉडल आंसर भी पढ़ रहे हैं। नाउ ऑफ कोर्स ABCD को मैं कुछ XYZ में चेंज नहीं कर सकती हूँ, जो आपका स्टैटिक पार्ट है ऑफ कोर्स इट वुड से स्टे सेम, उसमें हम चेंजेस नहीं कर सकते, वो तो आपको पढ़ना ही है, चाहे वो ऑप्शनल 500 बच्चे पिकअप करें, चाहे वो 1000, चाहे 50,000, चाहे 1 लाख, राइट? आपको तो वो स्टैटिक सिलेबस कवर करना ही है। अगर कोई भी टॉपिक, जैसे आई एम जस्ट पिकिंग अप एग्जांपल फ्रॉम GS फॉर दैट मैटर, कि अगर साइबर सिक्योरिटी है टॉपिक या बॉर्डर मैनेजमेंट है, सो ऑफ कोर्स आपको वो टॉपिक तो कवर करना ही है, राइट? तो वो स्टैटिक आपके उस कोचिंग से या उस फैकल्टी ने आपको कवर करवा दिया है। बट व्हाट अबाउट वैल्यू एडिशन? Every topic gives you the chance, the opportunity to go for value addition. Value addition में क्या होता है कि आप कुछ एक्स्ट्रा दे रहे हो जो बाकी लोग नहीं दे रहे हैं, या उन फैकल्टी ने वो चीज आपको नहीं पढ़ाया है। मतलब दैट पर्टिकुलर थिंग, मे बी ही इज गिविंग यू 2 thinkers, you find out 1/3 thinker, 1/3 philosopher, any third example, any third data, any third factual aspect, any third application which is not being taught in the mass format. जब ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन स्टूडेंट्स को आप मिला के देखोगे तो हर ऑप्शन में कम से कम आपको 5-6 हजार बच्चे तो मिल ही जाएंगे उस ऑप्शन को पढ़ते हुए। सो एवरीबडी व्हेन दे आर बीइंग टॉट अंडर द सेम फैकल्टी, सेम काइंड ऑफ कंटेंट इज बीइंग गिवन आउट, तो आपको ये वैल्यू एडिशन वाला काम करना है। एंड अगेन यू कांट लीव इट टू द टाइम दैट व्हेन आई विल बी राइटिंग मेंस। देखो ये जो जून जुलाई अगस्त का जो टाइम होता है ना, एवरी ईयर वी हैव द सेम थिंग, यू डोंट हैव टाइम, यू रियली फील कंस्ट्रेन विद टाइम। आपको पता रहेगा आपको क्या करना है, बट आपके पास टाइम नहीं बचेगा उसको करने के लिए। सो द वैल्यू एडिशन वाला काम जितना है वो नवंबर तक आपको एंड करना है, ठीक है? अगेन दिस इज फॉर 27 पीपल। सो जो भी कर रहे हो मीन्स पर्सपेक्टिव से जितना कर सकते हो नवंबर एंड तक खत्म कर लो। इफ यू आर लीविंग एनीथिंग फॉर दिसंबर, जनवरी नेक्स्ट ईयर व्हेन आई विल बी राइटिंग मेंस, यू आर डूइंग अ बिग ब्लंडर। रिलैक्स वे में पढ़ने का मतलब ये नहीं होता है कि हम कम पढ़ के काम चला लें या कॉम्प्रोमाइज में पढ़ें, ठीक है? सो आप रिलैक्स वे में पढ़ रहे हो, आपका नेक्स्ट ईयर एग्जाम है, आपको और प्रेशराइज होके पढ़ना चाहिए, आपको और टाइमलाइंस फॉलो करने चाहिए, डेडलाइंस फॉलो करने चाहिए, बिकॉज देयर इज लॉट टू स्टडी। राइट नाउ यू माइट फील कि मैं एक टॉपिक को 5 दिन लगा के पढ़ूं, क्या पता वो टॉपिक में से एक ही क्वेश्चन आया है 5 years में। सो यस, आप 5 दिन ना लगाओ, आप 2 दिन लगाओ, 1 दिन लगाओ, पढ़ो, कंप्लीट करो, बिकॉज इट इज पार्ट ऑफ योर सिलेबस। बट आपको ये भी देखना है कि आप कितना टाइम इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो। समटाइम्स स्टूडेंट्स थिंक अरे मेरे पास तो बहुत टाइम है। स्पेशली जितने भी स्टूडेंट्स नेक्स्ट ईयर के प्रिपेयर करते हैं, उनको लगता है अरे 1 साल तो बहुत टाइम होता है। आई एम टेलिंग यू, इफ यू आस्क मी एज अ मेंटर, आई एम मेंटली स्टक इन 2025। 26 आ चुका है, जून, 6 महीने ऑलरेडी, 5 महीने खत्म हो चुके हैं। बिकॉज टाइम पता नहीं चलता एज अ मेंटर, आई स्टिल सी that the courses I have launched, the mentorship programs I had launched in 2025, and we are sitting in 26, and I'm still mentally stuck there. कि अरे वो प्रोग्राम लॉन्च किया था, उस प्रोग्राम में ये स्टूडेंट था, दिस हैपेंड, दैट हैपेंड, आई टुक दोस क्लासेस। दैट्स हाउ टाइम क्विकली फ्लाइज बाय। सो आप टेकन फॉर ग्रांटेड नहीं लोगे कि बहुत टाइम है। ट्रस्ट मी ऑन दिस, आई एज अ मेंटर फील कंस्ट्रेन ऑफ टाइम एवरी ईयर। अभी हम जून में बात कर रहे हैं, आई एम टेलिंग यू, देखते देखते अगस्त आ जाएगा, देखते देखते दुर्गा पूजा, दिवाली, दशहरा, ये सारी चीजें आ जाएंगी, देखते देखते क्रिसमस आ जाएगा, न्यू ईयर आ जाएगा, एंड फिर सारा प्रीलिम्स का चक्कर शुरू हो जाएगा। ठीक है, एंड चाहे हम कितना भी अवॉइड करें, बट हम फोमो में पड़ ही जाते हैं, बिकॉज देयर सो मच एडवर्टीजमेंट गोइंग ऑन। अक्टूबर ऑनवर्ड्स, नवंबर ऑनवर्ड्स ही चीजें शुरू हो जाती हैं, प्रीलिम्स कोर्सेज बेचना शुरू कर देते हैं लोग। सो द रियल टाइम इज टू वर्क नाउ। ठीक है, you don't have time. If anybody is sitting next to you in the library, if you're going to a library and that person is going to write mains this year, जैसा वो पढ़ रहा है ना 12 घंटे बैठ के, the same thing you have to also do. ठीक है, so you need to actually sit and study for longer hours, keeping in mind कि आपका इसी साल मेंस है। ठीक है, नेक्स्ट ईयर के भरोसे रहोगे तो एक्चुअली आप 27 के लिए नहीं, कहीं ना कहीं 2028 के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो। ठीक है, सो कीप इन माइंड दिस एस्पेक्ट। द सेम थिंग गोस राइट। सो यहाँ पे मैंने इसको थोड़ा सा डिवाइड कर दिया है कि फर्स्ट राउंड जून टू सितंबर में कर लो, सेकंड राउंड अक्टूबर टू नवंबर में कर लो, एंड थर्ड राउंड दिसंबर जनवरी में कर लो। फरवरी में ऑप्शनल नहीं करेंगे, जनवरी इज द लास्ट। ठीक है, वो भी इफ यू रिमेंबर 40-60 वाले रेशियो से मैंने डिस्कस किया था। सो फर्स्ट राउंड, सेकंड राउंड, थर्ड राउंड, दिस इज व्हाट यू नीड टू डू। इफ यू फील दैट योर प्रीलिम्स इज टू मच कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड, आपके लिए डेडलाइन नवंबर का ही है। सो जो सेकंड राउंड है यही फिर आपके लिए पॉसिबल है। फर्स्ट राउंड एंड सेकंड राउंड मिला के बहुत अच्छे से अपना ऑप्शनल आप प्रिपेयर कर लो। ठीक है, ओके। Now let's come to the GS, because GS में 1 2 3 4 1000 मार्क्स का पेपर है, 250 मार्क्स पर पेपर, तो अपने आप में बहुत वेटेज लेके रखता है ये। एंड ऑफ कोर्स GS इज इक्वली एप्लीकेबल फॉर योर प्रीलिम्स, एंड कवर करने में टाइम लगता है। ठीक है, सो अ जनरल आइडिया अबाउट GS इज द सेम थिंग। 4 blocks, you have to do the syllabus coverage, you have to make notes, you have to keep in mind the previous year questions, एनालिसिस करना है कि किस टाइप से पूछे गए हैं, क्या पूछा जा रहा है। इन द रिसेंट ईयर्स समटाइम्स द क्वेश्चंस हैव बीन वेरी वेरी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड। डायरेक्टली पूछ लिया, व्हाट इज साइबर सिक्योरिटी, like just giving an example. So they have directly asked you how this is happening, what is this, right? In those kind of questions, of course, you need to have good content, because अगर direct पूछा है, they are not beating around the bush. So previous year question से analysis कर लो कि if the question is very straightforward, directly hitting the topic, or it is trying to ask critical analysis, it's trying to ask you that okay, do the appraisal and the shortcoming of that particular policy or scheme or whatever. ठीक है, so analysis करना per subject per topic बहुत जरूरी है। The kind of questions getting asked in GS3, in economics, or in infrastructure, or in agriculture, or in internal security, or in environment, or in disaster management, or even in science and technology, it's different, way different. सिलेबस सबके फिक्स्ड हैं कई सालों से, बट द वे दे आर आस्किंग द क्वेश्चंस, कुछ सब्जेक्ट्स आर वेरी कंटेम्प्रेरी और करंट अफेयर्स ओरिएंटेड, और कुछ सब्जेक्ट्स आपके अभी स्टैटिक टाइप ऑफ हो चुके हैं, बिकॉज देयर इज नथिंग न्यू कमिंग इन, इवन द स्कीम्स आर डेकेड ओल्ड। सो वहां पे यू हैव टू कीप इन माइंड प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस को ध्यान में रख के कि किस टाइप के क्वेश्चंस पूछे जा रहे हैं। ठीक है, सो विथ PYQ यू अंडरस्टैंड द पैटर्न, यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट UPSC इज एक्सपेक्टिंग आउट ऑफ यू, कहाँ पे बहुत कंटेम्प्रेरी क्वेश्चंस पूछे जा रहे हैं, कहाँ पे स्टैटिक पार्ट ऑफ द सिलेबस को डायरेक्टली पूछ लिया जा रहा है, व्हाट इज फूड प्रोसेसिंग, ठीक है, एग्रीकल्चर मार्केटिंग रिफॉर्म्स। सो बहुत स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चंस भी आपसे पूछे जाते हैं। ठीक है, दैट यू विल अंडरस्टैंड विद ऑफ कोर्स प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस। अ थंब रूल इज whenever you're picking up any subject or any topic, first glance through the previous year questions having been asked by UPSC on that particular topic. एक बार अच्छे से देख लो किस टाइप के क्वेश्चंस पूछे गए हैं, कैसे पूछे गए हैं, क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन है, 10 मार्क का पूछा गया है, 15 मार्क का पूछा गया है, ठीक है। सो अकॉर्डिंगली यू विल बी एबल टू डेवलप कंटेंट। Okay, then of course in GS also just like the optional, बिना आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस के इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू बी यूजफुल। देखो कंटेंट पढ़ पढ़ के कोई फायदा नहीं है। यस, अ बेसिक लेवल ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज डेफिनेटली रिक्वायर्ड, अ बेसिक लेवल ऑफ रेडीनेस ऑफ नोट्स इज रिक्वायर्ड, कि आपके पास वो डेफिनेशन, वो कॉजेस, फैक्टर्स, रीजंस, सॉल्यूशंस, वो स्कीम्स के बारे में, of course all this needs to be present in your notes. But without answer writing you will not be able to understand the gap that you have. गैप क्या होता है कि मे बी आई हैव सर्टन नोट्स ऑन वन पर्टिकुलर सब्जेक्ट, पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक, बट जब मैं आंसर लिखने बैठ रही हूँ तो मैं देख रही हूँ कि I don't have the sufficient reasons, or maybe I do have the points, but I don't have the examples or data or facts to substantiate my argument. मैंने 5 reasons बता दिए, या मैंने 5 areas of concern बता दिए in cyber security in 21st century, particularly India's policy, but मेरे पास वो substantiate करने के लिए examples ही नहीं है। मेरे पास recent years में कहाँ कहाँ पे cyber attack हुए हैं, कहाँ पे क्या हुआ है, मुझे आइडिया ही नहीं है। So that is the gap. वो जब आप आंसर राइटिंग करते हो देन यू रियलाइज दैट वेयर इज द गैप। ठीक है, सो हैविंग अ बेसिक प्रिपरेशन ऑफ नोट्स इज एसेंशियल, बट यही चीज जब आप आंसर राइटिंग की फॉर्म में लिखोगे देन यू विल एक्चुअली बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड कि इस चीज को तो मुझे पता ही नहीं है, या ये पर्टिकुलर आइडिया, ये पर्टिकुलर एग्जाम्पल मेरे पास है ही नहीं। देन आफ्टर राइटिंग द आंसर यू टेंड टू रियलाइज कि देयर इज अ गैप, एंड देन यू फिल द गैप विद वैल्यू एडिशन। इसलिए ये चारों ब्लॉक्स बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि एक बेसिक कवरेज तो कर लो, पिकअप अ स्टैंडर्ड टेक्स्ट बुक एंड कवर द सिलेबस, डू द नोट मेकिंग, मेक द नोट्स, बट प्रीवियस क्वेश्चंस एनालाइज करके लिख के आपको समझ में आता है कि एक्चुअल गैप कहाँ है। एंड द एंटायर एडवांस स्टेटस ऑफ प्रिपरेशन फॉर यूपीएससी सीएसई इज अबाउट फिलिंग दोज गैप्स। देखो बेसिक सिलेबस, बेसिक स्टैंडर्ड टेक्स्ट बुक्स में तो कवर्ड रहता ही है ना। यू हैव सो मेनी मटेरियल आउट अवेलेबल इन दी मार्केट, आपको टेलीग्राम पे मिल जाता है, आप मार्केट में जाते हो वहां से खरीद लेते हो, बहुत सारे टेक्स्ट बुक्स अवेलेबल हैं, बट उसमें कहीं ना कुछ कमी फील होती है, बिकॉज व्हेन यूपीएससी स्टार्ट्स आस्किंग अ क्वेश्चन इट इज यूजुअली अ मिक्स ऑफ स्टैटिक एंड कंटेम्प्रेरी। कुछ स्टैटिक पार्ट उठाते हैं और कुछ उसको कंटेम्प्रेरी इशू बेस्ड उठाते हैं। तो आपके पास स्टैटिक का तो नॉलेज और कंटेंट होता है, कभी कभी कंटेम्प्रेरी का नहीं होता है। हाँ, कंटेम्प्रेरी ऑफ कोर्स यू आर पिकिंग अप, दैट्स व्हाई करंट अफेयर्स इज इंपॉर्टेंट, हम करंट अफेयर्स से ऐड करते हैं। बट कभी कभी करंट अफेयर्स भी ना आप 2-3 मैक्सिमम 2 साल का पढ़ोगे। अ वेरी नाइस स्टूडेंट इफ आई स्टिल एज्यूम कि वो अपने फाउंडेशन से न्यूज़पेपर और करंट अफेयर्स पढ़ते जा रहा है, तो मैक्स टू मैक्स 2-2.5 साल का कवरेज होता है, राइट। कभी कभी आपको 3-4 साल के एग्जाम्पल्स चाहिए होते हैं, क्योंकि ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है सारे साइबर अटैक सभी 2 साल में ही हुए होंगे। सो यू नीड सम प्रीवियस एग्जाम्पल्स ऑल्सो। ये जो वैल्यू एडिशन है तब आपको समझ में आता है कि यस आई कैन पिक अप एग्जाम्पल्स और आई हैव टू सर्च फॉर एग्जाम्पल्स व्हिच हैपेंड मे बी 4 to 5 years बैक। ठीक है, सो दैट इज द पर्पस ऑफ गोइंग फॉर वैल्यू एडिशन। ओके, नाउ सीक्वेंस क्या होना चाहिए, बिकॉज 4 जीएस पेपर है तो जीएस 1 2 3 4 पढ़े नहीं। आइडियली द सीक्वेंस शुड बी स्टार्ट विद एथिक्स। देखो एथिक्स एक ऐसा सब्जेक्ट है, आपने सुना होगा टॉपर्स के टॉक्स में, एंड देयर टेलीग्राम पोस्ट, एंड द वे दे गिव गाइडेंस, दैट एथिक्स इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर एनी टॉपर। ऑप्शनल, एथिक्स एंड एसे, they cannot compromise because these are marks fetching. मार्क्स तो ऑफकोर्स सब में ही आपको लेके आने हैं, ऐसा नहीं कि जीएस में आप कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर लोगे बाकी पेपर्स में, बट एथिक्स में व्हाट वी हैव सीन कि अगर आप अपने एफर्ट्स डाल रहे हो तो को रिलेशन है मार्क्स में। ठीक है, सिमिलरली इन ऑप्शनल हम देखते हैं कि जब आप एफर्ट्स डाल रहे हो, व्हेन यू आर डूइंग द आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस, यू हैव कंप्लीटेड द सिलेबस, यू आर वेरी वेल वर्स्ड विथ योर ऑप्शनल, तो आपके मार्क्स वहां पे हायर एंड पे आते हैं। ठीक है, तो वी विल स्टार्ट विथ एथिक्स। वाई? बिकॉज एथिक्स को जब आप पहली बार करोगे आपको नहीं समझ में आएगा उतना। ethics as a subject in the initial phases might come across as difficult depending on आपको कितना इंटरेस्ट है, क्योंकि फिलोसफी समझना या एथिक्स को समझना और उसके बेसिस पे आंसर्स लिखना, इट्स रियली डिफरेंट। सो एथिक्स को हम टारगेट कर रहे हैं पहले करके, सो दैट वी गेट चांस टू एटलीस्ट डू इट ट्वाइस एंड थ्राइस। नवंबर तक, दिसंबर तक हमें कोशिश करना है कि एथिक्स हम एटलीस्ट, मतलब मैं मिनिमम बोल रही हूँ 2 बार एंड मैक्सिमम 3 बार कर लें। बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स बिफोर दे शिफ्ट टू प्रीलिम्स, बिफोर दे ट्रांजिशन टू प्रीलिम्स प्रिपरेशन, वो एक बार एथिक्स करके बंद करते हैं अपनी मेंस की प्रिपरेशन। जैसे कि मान लो फॉर एग्जांपल somebody prepares ethics for the one last time in December and January and then they switch to the prelims preparation. ऐसा क्यों करते हैं? Because ethics, of course, it's not, you could say, having any relation, any relevance in the prelims. I know this is very, weird, but देखो वो तो 26 का दो तीन जो क्वेश्चंस आया है, we cannot exactly call it as, कि वो ethics exam, मतलब ethics का पोर्शन अब सिलेबस में आ गया है. But yes, that is why it is recommended कि मेंस प्रिपरेशन करके फिर प्रीलिम्स की प्रिपरेशन करें. तो हाँ भी साइड रखते हैं, बिकॉज अभी भी ऑफिशियल नोटिफिकेशन में, ऑफिशियल सिलेबस में एथिक्स प्रीलिम्स का पार्ट नहीं है, राइट? मतलब प्रीलिम्स में एथिक्स का सिलेबस को नहीं इंक्लूड किया गया है. सो वो जो दो तीन क्वेश्चंस इस साल आए थे, वी आर गोइंग टू कीप इट असाइड एज अनॉमली, नॉट एज कन्वेंशनल. तो अभी भी हमारा एथिक्स मेंस का ही पार्ट है. वी विल सी व्हाट वी हैव टू डू इन द अपकमिंग months, and especially when the notification is released, क्या यूपीएससी हो सकता है इंक्लूड करे एथिक्स के क्वेश्चंस इन द ऑफिशियल नोटिफिकेशन ऑफ द सिलेबस. जब तक ऐसा नहीं है तब तक एथिक्स हम एज पार्ट ऑफ मेन सिलेबस ही पढ़ेंगे, एंड वी विल ट्राई एंड कंप्लीट इट एटलीस्ट ट्वाइस टू मैक्सिमम 3 times टिल द मंथ ऑफ दिसंबर. ठीक है? सो यू विल स्टार्ट विद GS4 राइट नाउ, प्रेफरेबली जून में GS4 खत्म कर लो, so that you can pick it up again once in the month of August, yeah, September, and then again in the month of December. ठीक है? Then from GS4 you move on to GS2. मैंने GS2 क्यों लाइन किया है? Because if you would see carefully, some portions of the syllabus of ethics and GS2 are overlapping. ठीक है? तो वो overlapping वाला portion एक easy पड़ जाता है करना. And GS2 again I feel in the recent trends, देखो मैं recent years की बात कर रही हूँ क्योंकि GS2 हमेशा स्कोरिंग नहीं था, बट इन द recent years we have seen कि GS3 से ज्यादा GS2 स्कोरिंग है. ठीक है? So as compare, like I would say, if I follow the trends and the patterns of the recent years of the marking, then GS2 is fetching more marks as compared to GS3. GS3 में 100, 101 जा रहा है, जबकि GS2 में स्टूडेंट्स के 125, 120 प्लस आराम से जा रहे हैं. ठीक है? सो अगेन GS4 के बाद हम GS2 करेंगे, एंड GS2 में you've got polity, you've got your constitutional questions and all, you've got governance, social justice, IR. तो ये सारे टॉपिक्स आपके marks fetching है. If you complete it, you're going to really, really be well prepared, and of course have a probability of higher scores, right? Then हम GS3 पे आएंगे. GS3 का syllabus मुझे lengthy लगता है because there are many subjects. So economy, and economy को भी हम divide करते हैं. 2 types of economy है. One economy is of course which is being asked from the you could say poverty, unemployment, and demographic dividend and skill and all that, and GDP, the mobilization of resources, ये सब जो topics हैं. और जो एक आपका infrastructure वाला part आता है, right? Where you've got your airports and roads and railways wala part hai, and infrastructure, right? So that is like BOT and triple P models and all, wo sab questions पूछे जाते हैं. Then of course you have got your agriculture, internal security, disaster management. ये मैंने ऐसे इसलिए गिना है because these are generally I would say have become static. बहुत कुछ recent times में ऐसा कुछ बहुत नया हुआ नहीं है. So agriculture, internal security, I would say at least 90% have become static. क्योंकि अभी रिसेंट ईयर्स में एग्रीकल्चर बहुत ज्यादा कुछ नए स्कीम्स भी लॉन्च नहीं हुए हैं. दे आर जस्ट शफलिंग द स्कीम्स, और मे बी दे आर पुटिंग डाउन द स्कीम्स इनटू अम्ब्रेला स्कीम्स के अंदर कुछ कर दे रहे हैं, चेंजेस कर दे रहे हैं, उनका कैटेगराइजेशन चेंज कर रहे हैं, बट इन अ वे बहुत ज्यादा नए स्कीम्स लॉन्च नहीं हुए हैं. सो एग्रीकल्चर, इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी, इवन द इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी इशूज हैव बिकम आई वुड से स्टैटिक. बहुत कुछ नया नहीं है. हाँ, ड्रोन को कंसिडर कर रहे हो तो वो अलग चीज है कि न्यू methods of warfare and new technology being applied. Of course, new technology तो वो current affairs के angles include करने ही है. But the topics of cyber security, the topics of border management, insurgency, left-wing extremism, border issues तो मैंने बोला ही, of course, terrorism and all. So ये सारे बहुत ही static part of topic हो चुके हैं. The same thing applies for disaster management. Conventionally जो disasters हैं वो of course static हैं. कुछ नए type of disasters हो रहे हैं, which is sometimes like I would say कि उनको conventional disaster management के अंदर नहीं, but from current perspective पढ़ा जाता है. So your conventional list of disasters is of course कि tropical cyclones, earthquakes, tsunami, forest fires. But अभी आप देख रहे हो many ACs are getting blasted. So urban fires, buildings में fire लग जाना, chemical disasters. 2 years back, they asked about oil spills, dam failures. So these are new sorts of disasters. So जो static part of disaster का list है, that is, of course, you would find the content in any standard textbook. And जो कंटेम्प्रेरी है, जो न्यूज ओरिएंटेड है, वो हमें न्यूज से ऑफकोर्स पढ़ना है, ठीक है। सो फ्यू पोर्शंस ऑफ GS3 हैव बिकम स्टैटिक। एनवायरमेंट, साइंस एंड टेक, एंड जो मैंने इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और इकोनॉमी वाला पार्ट बोला है, ये थोड़ा सा करंट ओरिएंटेड ज्यादा रहता है, ठीक है। सो साइंस एंड टेक एनवायरमेंट आर द ट्रिकीएस्ट पार्ट ऑफ GS3 इन मेंस. Why? Because even if they give the impression that they are going to ask from current affairs, sometimes very difficult, very different kind of question is being asked. So I don't say that it's very marks fetching or very score worthy. So environment or science and tech padhna to hai, because of course these subjects are equally important from your prelims perspective, but I wouldn't say that they're very marks fetching. ठीक है, तो इस चीज को हमें ध्यान में रख के पढ़ना है. GS3 would be the third subject in the sequence. I have aligned GS1 as the last बिकॉज मैं चाहती हूँ जब हम GS1 पढ़े तो वहां पे जो आपके मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री के पोर्शंस हैं, ज्योग्राफी है, कल्चर वाला पार्ट है, दिस ऑल इज ऑफ कोर्स गेटिंग ओवरलैप विथ योर प्रीलिम्स पार्ट आल्सो. सो जब तक आप GS1 कर रहे होते हो, प्रीलिम्स पास आने लगता है, सो यू आर नॉट बीइंग वेरी डिटैच विद द प्रीलिम्स प्रिपरेशन. कई स्टूडेंट्स को ये डर होता है कि हम मेंस कर रहे हैं तो हम प्रीलिम्स से बहुत दूर जा चुके हैं. यस, बट आई डोंट थिंक सो कि हम एंटायरली दूर जा चुके हैं, बिकॉज GS2 में भी आप पॉलिटी पढ़ते हो, GS3 में भी आप इकोनॉमी पढ़ रहे हो, साइंस एंड टेक पढ़ रहे हो, एनवायरमेंट पढ़ रहे हो. सो ऐसा नहीं कि आप प्रीलिम्स सिलेबस से बिल्कुल डिटैच हो गए हो. बट यस, GS1 में मेजर आपके सब्जेक्ट्स हो जाते हैं ज्योग्राफी, हिस्ट्री, कल्चर एंड ऑल, तो विच इज मोर रेलेवेंट टू योर प्रीलिम्स, तो वहां पे हम उन सब्जेक्ट्स को पिकअप कर लेंगे. सो दिस इज द सीक्वेंस दैट यू शुड आइडियली बी फॉलोइंग. अब किसी को मानो GS2 बाद में पढ़ना है, GS3 पहले पढ़ना है, योर कॉल. बट एटलीस्ट जो एक्सट्रीम एंड्स पे सब्जेक्ट्स हैं, GS4 एंड GS1, इस सीक्वेंस को मत टीज करो. हाँ, इफ यू आर ज्वाइनिंग एनी टेस्ट सीरीज, इफ यू आर ज्वाइनिंग एनी आंसर राइटिंग प्रोग्राम एंड उनका कुछ सीक्वेंस चल रहा है, तो ठीक है, वही सीक्वेंस आपको फॉलो करना पड़ेगा ऑफ कोर्स, बिकॉज यू कांट मैनेज बोथ दी सब्जेक्ट्स टुगेदर. फॉर 2027 स्टूडेंट्स, आपका स्केड्यूल, आपका टाइमलाइन, आपका डे कैसा दिखना चाहिए, डेली रूटीन क्या होगा, 50-50 डिवाइडेड होगा. अगर आप 10 घंटे पढ़ रहे हो तो 1/2 of the day will be for your one GS subject and the other half of the day would be for your optional subject. कई बार स्टूडेंट्स मुझसे पूछते हैं कि मैम 2 GS सब्जेक्ट करेंगे साथ में, एंड ऑप्शनल 3 हो जाएगा, फिर करंट अफेयर्स भी करना है. नहीं, बी रियलिस्टिक विथ योर प्लान. इतनी देखो, करना तो हम ऑफकोर्स एज ह्यूमंस बहुत कुछ करना चाहते हैं, मैं भी बहुत कुछ करना चाहती हूँ एक सिंगल डे में, बट नो, इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल बिकॉज यूर अ ह्यूमन बीइंग. आप 24 घंटे नहीं पढ़ सकते हो. मैक्स टू मैक्स आप 12-14 आवर्स कोशिश कर सकते हो, वो भी डेली बेसिस पे कंसिस्टेंसी में. एवरी डे 12 आवर्स इज नॉट पॉसिबल. दिस इज ऑल्सो अनदर कंसर्न. स्टूडेंट्स को लगता है कि टॉपर्स 12 घंटे पढ़ के बनते हैं. देखो, एक्चुअली घंटों का हिसाब से ऐसा कुछ फर्क पड़ता नहीं है. वॉट इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट इज डिसिप्लिन एंड कंसिस्टेंसी. आप 8 ही घंटे पढ़ो, बट आप रोज पढ़ो. बट आप एक दिन 12 घंटे पढ़ रहे हो और उसके नेक्स्ट 2 डेज आप नहीं पढ़ रहे हो, तो एवरेज तो आपका कम ही हो गया ना, ठीक है. बट आप रोज आप 8 घंटे पढ़ रहे हो मिनिमम, फोकस्ड, ठीक है, तो वो आपको कंसिस्टेंट वे में ज्यादा फायदा देगा. सो रादर देन गेटिंग स्टक विद द आवर काइंड ऑफ नोशन कि कितने घंटे पढ़ना चाहिए, टॉपर्स कितने घंटे पढ़ते हैं, it's more about consistency. Because even if you take a long break, this I've seen with myself also when I was an aspirant, कि बहुत लंबा ब्रेक कभी कभी लेने पे ना वापस आके पढ़ने में बहुत मुश्किल होती है. So as a student who's preparing for next year, I would recommend never go for long breaks. When I say long breaks, मतलब beyond 4-5 days अगर आप नहीं पढ़ रहे हो, तो आपको वापस आके स्टडी जोन, स्टडी मोड में ही अडेप्ट करने में आपको टाइम लग जाता है. So never go for long breaks. Of course, I'm not asking you to stop living your life. I'm not asking you to stop going to home, to your hometown, or I'm not asking you to stop celebrating festivals. But 10 दिन, 15 दिन, 12 दिन की छुट्टियां हम नहीं अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं. मैक्स टू मैक्स 4 to 5 days. अगर आप घर भी जा रहे हो, घर में कुछ काम है, यू हैव टू टेक लॉन्ग लीव, कैरी सम सब्जेक्ट्स विथ यू. बिकॉज आई एम श्योर आपके घर में भी आप सुबह या इवनिंग या रात के टाइम में आप कुछ 2-3 घंटे निकाल के डेफिनेटली पढ़ सकते हो. बीइंग इन द जोन ऑफ स्टडी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज द मोमेंट यू लूज द मोमेंटम, मोमेंटम बहुत जरूरी होता है. मोमेंटम को ही वापस लाने में काफी टाइम लग जाता है. समटाइम्स आई हैव सीन स्टूडेंट्स हैज टेकन ब्रेक ऑफ ओनली 4-5-6 days, बट मोमेंटम लाते लाते ही 10-12 दिन पर महीनों चले जाते हैं. सो इट इज रिकमेंडेड दैट इवन इफ यू आर टेकिंग अ ब्रेक, एक तो आपका ब्रेक होना चाहिए प्लान्ड ब्रेक. सडन ब्रेक्स, जैसे हम जब बीमार पड़ जाते हैं, ठीक है, दैट इज एक्सेप्शनल सिचुएशन. बट व्हेन यू आर प्लानिंग your breaks, for example, if your birthday is coming up, your parents anniversary is coming up, some festival is coming up, or maybe because your parents said कि ठीक है अब तो तुम नेक्स्ट ईयर का अटेम्प्ट दोगे, चलो हम फैमिली ट्रिप कर लेते हैं, whatever is the thing, प्लान कर लो उसको दैट ओके दिस टाइम आई एम टेकिंग अ ब्रेक, so before that I have to study a lot and after coming back I have to study a lot to compensate for those days, right? And I'm telling you, beyond 4 to 5 days अगर आप ब्रेक लेते हो तो कहीं ना कहीं यू हैव टू कैरी सम बुक्स। 3-4 days का ब्रेक ले रहे हो तो ठीक है, मैं नहीं कहूंगी कि बुक्स कैरी करो, फिर वो शो ऑफ लगता है, क्योंकि मैंने भी ये वक्त ये काम किया हुआ है कि 2-3 दिन के घर गया वहां पे भी बुक्स और करंट अफेयर्स कैरी कर रहे हैं, नहीं आप नहीं पढ़ पाते हो। सो बी रियलिस्टिक, if you're taking a break of 2-3 days, don't carry any book, be a normal human being, enjoy karo. But yeah, if the break is supposed to be long or you're supposed to stay back at home because there's some work going on, then carry your books so that at home also you can study. Okay, so study momentum is very very much required. It's very essential to be maintained, क्योंकि बहुत लंबे ब्रेक्स कहीं ना कहीं हमें फिर नेगेटिवली हैम्पर करते हैं हमारी पढ़ाई को, हमारे मोमेंटम को, और मोमेंटम वापस लाने में ही एक्चुअली बहुत मेहनत लगती है। दिस आई हैव सीन इन लॉट मेनी टाइम्स विद माय मेंटरशिप प्रोग्राम्स कि स्टूडेंट्स 10-15 दिन गायब हो गए एंड देन देखो, इफ यू हैव फॉलन सिक दैट्स ऑफ कोर्स अनदर थिंग, वहां पे हम उसको एडजस्ट करते हैं कि हाउ वी कैन कंपनसेट फॉर द टाइम लॉस्ट। बट प्लान्ड ब्रेक्स हमेशा इस टाइप से प्लान करो कि यू आर नॉट रियली आउट ऑफ द मोमेंटम। एंड प्लान ब्रेक्स का एक और एस्पेक्ट है दैट बिकॉज यू आर स्टडिंग फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म, आपका एग्जाम नेक्स्ट ईयर है, सो आप अपने आपको बर्न आउट नहीं कर सकते हो इस साल पढ़ते पढ़ते। सो व्हाट इज एसेंशियल इज दैट in between you have to take breaks. Now some students feel comfortable in taking break after every 6 day, जैसे maybe people like who work in corporates and all, जैसे मेजरली जो भी जॉब करता है वो यही काम करता है, 6 दिन नौकरी करता है और 7वें दिन आप छुट्टी लेते हो संडे के दिन, ठीक है, या डिपेंडिंग ऑन विच डे इज योर लीव। Similarly for a student what you can do is that you can go for 6.5 days पढ़ लो एंड हाफ डे का ब्रेक ले लो, ठीक है, या 9 days पढ़ के 10th डे आप फुल पूरा अपना दिन में ब्रेक ले सकते हो, ठीक है। सो दिस इज व्हाट यू आर सपोज टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड प्लान, दैट वन बेसिक लाइक सब्जेक्ट जो भी आप पढ़ रहे हो एंड उसका एक बेसिक सोर्स ऑल्सो यू हैव टू प्रिपेयर। नाउ दिस इज अबाउट दी सोर्सेज कि हमें पढ़ना कैसे। सो फॉर एवरी सब्जेक्ट यू शुड फिक्स वन बेसिक सोर्स, डोंट गो रनिंग आफ्टर कि कौन सा बेस्ट सोर्स है। आई वुड गो फॉर द परफेक्ट सोर्स। मेरे पास हमेशा कंपैरिजन के लिए स्टूडेंट्स क्वेश्चन पूछ रहते हैं, मैम एबीसी इंस्टीट्यूट का ये कोर्स लूं कि XYZ इंस्टीट्यूट का ये कोर्स लूं, इट डजंट रियली मैटर, ठीक है। यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट वन बेसिक सोर्स, वन बेसिक स्टैंडर्ड मटेरियल, irrespective of the coaching institute, आपको वो अपना बेस बना लेना है, because none of the material is perfect. I told you about value addition, मैंने आपको ऑप्शन में भी बोला, मैंने आपको GS में भी बोला, value addition is important, right? So one basic source आपको fix कर लेना है, which is not going to be the perfect source, but of course ensure that it's not a very compromised source कि आपको basic static syllabus ही नहीं मिल रहा है वहां पे, ठीक है। So you need to accordingly fix one basic source. आपको वैल्यू एडिशन करना है, वो कहाँ से करोगे? देयर आर वेरियस वेज, ऑफकोर्स करंट अफेयर्स भी एक वैल्यूएशन होता है, करंट अफेयर्स कंपाइलेशन, करंट अफेयर्स फ्रॉम द न्यूज़पेपर्स एक्चुअली, सो ऑल दैट इज योर वैल्यू एडिशन। इवन टेस्ट सॉल्यूशंस ऑफ द वेरियस कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स, व्हेन आई से वेरियस, आपको वेरियस नहीं करना है, आपको एक कोई चूज करना है जिनका द ऑल द ईयर राउंड वाले जो टेस्ट सीरीज चलते हैं ना, बिकॉज दे कंडक्ट लॉट ऑफ सेक्शनल टेस्ट, सो pick up the test solution, you will get good ideas from there, you will catch up good terminologies, you can catch up good committee names and all, so wahan se wo pick up kar sakte ho, theek hai। so test solution of reputed coaching, ठीक है, बिकॉज आजकल ये भी बहुत चल रहा है दैट मेनी ऑफ द कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स आर टेकिंग आउट AI जनरेटेड कंटेंट। AI जनरेटेड कंटेंट में प्रॉब्लम नहीं है यूजुअली, मतलब आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट इज एंटायरली प्रॉब्लमैटिक थिंग, द ओनली प्रॉब्लम इज दैट समटाइम्स इट्स फैक्चुअली इनकरेक्ट एंड समटाइम्स इट इज ऑल्सो पॉसिबल कि उस क्वेश्चन का डिमांड एड्रेस नहीं कर रहा है, वो आपको कंटेंट तो भर के दे रहा है बट मे बी इट इज नॉट एक्चुअली एड्रेसिंग द डिमांड। सो बी वेरी केयरफुल, रेप्यूटेड कोचिंग्स का लो जिनके पास अभी भी कंटेंट टीम काम कर रही है, जिन्होंने अपने कंटेंट टीम को नौकरी से नहीं निकाल दिया है और AI को नहीं रिक्रूट कर लिया है, ऐसे कोचिंग के पास जाना है जिनका कंटेंट टीम होता है ह्यूमन बेस्ड, ठीक है, बिकॉज ह्यूमंस ऑफ कोर्स दे आर आल्सो टेकिंग हेल्प ऑफ AI to generate the solution, but it is being reviewed by a human to give you the content, proper content, ठीक है। तो filtered out content आप use करोगे तो वो ज्यादा beneficial रहता है, you can take help of that, those test solutions, इवन यू कैन टेक हेल्प फ्रॉम टॉपर्स कॉपीज, बट देखो टॉपर्स कॉपीज थोड़ा सा विद द पिंच ऑफ सॉल्ट जो बोलते हैं ना, बी वेरी केयरफुल, बिकॉज टॉपर्स आर ऑल्सो ह्यूमन. कभी कभी मान लो उन्होंने अपने टेस्ट कॉपीज में गलत डेटा लिख दिया हो, गलत एग्जाम्पल लिख दिया हो, सो यू टेंड टू लर्न फ्रॉम टॉपर्स कॉपीज, बट आर दे फैक्चुअली 100% करेक्ट? नो. ठीक है. सो वैल्यू एडिशन के लिए करंट अफेयर्स, टेस्ट सॉल्यूशंस, टॉपर्स कॉपीज, of course you can go for that. Some people go for current affairs classes. There are many famous faculties for that. If you're planning on enrolling into that, your call, no problem with that. They will be giving you, but उनके साथ एक problem ये होता है, because the program says current affairs, they will be discussing, they will be giving value into current affairs issues only. Static फिर आपको कहीं ना कहीं खुद से करना है. ठीक है. So this is how you're supposed to prepare. Okay, now I'll be focusing more on the GS4 aspect. Just a moment. Okay, I hope you're able to see the screen properly, right? So now GS4, because very important ethics paper, marks fetching है, और आप किसी भी टॉप 100 टॉपर का GS4 में मार्क्स कम नहीं देखोगे. ठीक है. एंड ऑफ कोर्स इफ यू आर स्कोरिंग इन ट्रिपल डिजिट नंबर, बेस्ट थिंग. So GS4 में, but there are two approaches depending on कि आप what kind of student you are. Are you preparing ethics for the first time, or you have prepared ethics maybe in your foundation, or maybe you have seen some lectures? Let's take the first category, जो ethics पहली बार prepare कर रहे हैं. If you don't know anything about ethics, you're preparing it for the first time, I would recommend taking up any one particular class. ठीक है. Any faculties, any one particular faculties foundation course आप ले लो. ठीक है. You want to enroll as a module, your call. You want to do it through Telegram, your call. The idea is that आपके पास वो basic understanding वहां से develop होनी चाहिए. Ethics as a subject, if you would directly jump from reading it from a standard textbook or a source, you might not be able to grasp everything. But when a teacher is teaching you those concepts, you tend to understand it. You tend to remember it for a longer period of time. So इसलिए ये recommended रहता है that anybody who's doing the subject for the first time should be ideally doing it through some modules, some course, some videos. ठीक है. And you have to, when you're watching those videos, you have to make notes. ठीक है. So notes from the same class, and of course you have to handwrite, like do the handwritten ones. वो of course handout देते हैं, handout भी ले लो, no problem in that. But ideally, I want you to write ethics notes in your own handwriting. iPad पे लिखना चाहते हो, that is your call. Hard copy पे लिखना चाहते हो, that is your call. Loose A4 sheets में बनाना चाहते हो, your call. But हमें यहाँ पे कोशिश करना है कि हमारे हैंड रिटन नोट्स बनने चाहिए. एथिक्स में बिना नोट्स के काम नहीं चल पाएगा. एक्चुअली फॉर दैट मैटर आई ऑलवेज से कि प्रीलिम्स फिर भी आप बिना अपने हैंड रिटन नोट्स के क्वालिफाई कर सकते हो, डायरेक्टली रीडिंग फ्रॉम द स्टैंडर्ड टेक्स्ट बुक्स. बट मीन्स बिना हैंड रिटन नोट्स या बिना नोट्स के फॉर दैट मैटर यू कैन नॉट क्वालिफाई. बिकॉज when you're given blank sheets, आपको जब 20 क्वेश्चन लिखने होते हैं ना, you have to recall things from your memory. मेमोरी से तभी आएगा जब आपने कहीं पे वो चीजें लिखी होंगी खुद की हैंड राइटिंग में, खुद से. then you remember it, you sort of mug it up, you sort of go through it, you do lot of revision many times, multiple times, तब जाके आप एक blank paper पे उसको represent, reiterate कर पाते हो. तो you need to be very careful with this aspect, and ethics में especially you need to have your notes. ठीक है. वैल्यू एडिशन ऑफ कोर्स हम करेंगे फॉर केस स्टडीज, आंसर राइटिंग अप्रोच एंड एग्जांपल्स. दैट मींस हमें अलग से कुछ करना पड़ेगा टू ऐड वैल्यू, बिकॉज एनी फैकल्टी टीचिंग यू द बेसिक ऑफ एथिक्स विल नॉट बी टीचिंग यू एवरीथिंग. हर चीज वैल्यू एडिशन का नहीं कर पाते हैं. कुछ कुछ क्लासेस में इवन केस स्टडीज भी स्किप करा देते हैं. सो यू नीड टू बी वेरी केयरफुल दैट इफ दे हैव नॉट डेल्ट विद द केस स्टडीज, आपको केस स्टडीज करना है. You have to also go with the answer writing. You have to go with previous year questions, and you have to do the value addition, do the content enrichment from the perspective of examples. क्योंकि कुछ examples आपके current affairs oriented होते हैं, तो आप current affairs से pick up करते हो. ठीक है. Now, the second category of students, I'm assuming that you have already done some classes, you already know the ethics syllabus, and also you already have the notes with you. तो यहाँ पे then you have to go for value addition. आपको कुछ एक्स्ट्रा कंटेंट, कुछ एक्स्ट्रा एग्जाम्पल्स ऐड करने पड़ेंगे. यू हैव टू गो विद आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस. नाउ दिस इज फॉर बोथ द कैटेगरीज ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स. एमेच्योर, सीनियर, डजंट मैटर. न्यू हो, आपने फाउंडेशन कर लिया है, तब भी आपको आंसर राइटिंग करना है. आपने ऑलरेडी आपके बेसिक सिलेबस को कंप्लीट कर लिया है, यू ऑलरेडी हैव द नोट्स रेडी मेड एंड ऑल, तब भी आपको आंसर राइटिंग करना है. सो प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस प्लस आंसर राइटिंग would help you understand the themes will help you understand the pattern of ethics paper. ठीक है, so types of question किस टाइप के पूछे जा रहे हैं, ये सारी चीजें आप समझ पाओगे when you're dealing with the PYQ. Okay, so yes, writing, practicing PYQs is very, very important for ethics paper. And when you're doing the PYQ practice, it's not just about the content, but also you tend to understand that maybe I understand the content. Like for example, उन्होंने कई बार in the recent years, महावीर पे क्वेश्चन पूछा है that what is his contribution, what are the major teachings of Mahavir, what are the major teachings of Guru Nanak, what are the major teachings of you could say even Mahatma Gandhi for that matter. So इस टाइप के क्वेश्चंस पूछे गए. So this is the basic content that okay, what are the teachings, how would you start the introduction, how would you start the answer, what conclusion are you going to write. So sometimes when you start the answers, you understand that you've got the basic content, but IBC format follow करने के लिए, introduction conclusion लिखने के लिए आपके पास कुछ proper content नहीं है. So when you actually write answers, when you do the practice, then you understand कि मेरे पास introduction conclusion नहीं है. When you get that realization, then of course you start working on framing best introductions and conclusions. ये भी value addition ही है, क्योंकि आपके पास बेसिक कंटेंट तो है सिलेबस का, बट हाउ टू एक्चुअली एड्रेस दैट पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन, you don't know that. So उसके लिए best introduction conclusions you're picking up from toppers copies, like you're getting an understanding कि वो कैसे अपने introduction को लिख रहे हैं, कैसे conclude कर रहे हैं. Even from the test solutions you're picking up that, right? And also you're including varied examples. कुछ examples देखो, जैसे many faculties teaching while teaching will give you common examples, Gandhi, Buddha, will give you examples of अशोक खेमका. कुछ IAS officers के रटे रटे like बहुत ही redundant, बहुत ही common examples दिए जाते हैं which everybody is writing. But I'm not saying that writing example of TN session or Ashok Khemka is wrong, but it is so common that every person is writing it, every student is writing it. तो आपको थोड़े से varied examples लेके आने हैं, and you have to actually include that in your answers. And that is why going through toppers copies is essential, because you will understand कि वो भी यही काम करते हैं. When they are writing any answer, they are actually going for common plus unique examples. ये unique examples over the time collect होता है, over the period of time when you're reading newspapers, maybe when you're going through toppers copies, तो फिर आप unconventional या sometimes आप unconventional sources follow करते हो. Better India, sometimes you're reading through social media posts जहाँ पे किसी IAS officer की तारीफ हुई है, या government का जो best practices होता है वहाँ पे you get those kind of names. So you need to actually include those different examples from there. ठीक है, so topper copies पढ़ना है, वहां से content extract करना होता है, वहां से introduction conclusion सीखना है. And also with toppers copies you get a reality check. See, ये मैंने 3 column में क्यों divide किया है. The first column is the basic which everybody needs to be doing. ठीक है, जो second चीज है वो practical application है. पहला theoretical हो गया, प्रैक्टिकल हो गया सेकंड कॉलम, जहां पे आपको प्रीवियस से क्वेश्चंस लिखना है. यू हैव टू राइट लॉट ऑफ आंसर्स सो दैट यू ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड कि एक्चुअली जो आप पढ़ के आ रहे हो और जो आप लिख रहे हो उसमें क्या गैप है. ठीक है, द थर्ड इज एक्चुअली दैट वेरी वेरी प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट, मतलब प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट जो प्रैग्मेटिक एस्पेक्ट जिसको हम बोलेंगे कि एग्जाम में जैसे द आंसर, यू हैव जनरेटेड अ लॉट ऑफ कंटेंट ऑन वन पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक, बट वहां टाइम कंस्ट्रेन है. 13 questions are present in section A of GS4 paper, ethics paper, and वहां पे per question 10 mark का होता है. 10 marks में आपको time constraint में लिखना है. So even if you have read a lot, maybe you have 4 pages content for that particular, क्या आप वो सारा 4 page वहां पे लिख पाओगे as an answer? No, right? So toppers copy से आप समझते हो that pragmatic realistic way में time constraint में what quality of answer can be produced. Sometimes when you write answers, अगर आपने एक भी आंसर अभी तक लिखा होगा तो आपने एक चीज सीखा होगा, समझा होगा, that when you're writing an answer without keeping in perspective the time constraint, आप एक बहुत अच्छा आंसर लिख सकते हो. ठीक है, but usually you're producing an answer in half an hour, sometimes even 1 hour. But आपको पता है that in the actual exam you're not getting half an hour per question. 7 minutes 10 minutes के अंदर आंसर्स लिखने होते हैं. So in a way when you read toppers copies you understand कि pragmatic way में time constraint के अंदर what quality of answer can be reproduced. ठीक है, so one is theoretical, one is practical when you're actually doing it, but the other part is the real pragmatic perspective of answer writing, which is when you write under time constraint. The reality check is that time constraint writing में आपका quality compromise होता ही है. वहां पे जो सबसे best लिख लेता है, I would not even call it as best, जो better लिख लेता है average से, that person becomes topper actually. ठीक है। सो ऑफ कोर्स दैट डजंट मीन कि जो थर्ड स्टेप है उसको हम फर्स्ट स्टेप से कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना शुरू कर देंगे कि जब हम क्वालिटी कंटेंट लिख ही नहीं सकते हैं तो हम पढ़ाई क्यों करें, क्वालिटी पढ़ाई क्यों करें। नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होता है। यू हैव टू कीप इन माइंड कि आपको पढ़ना पड़ता है, अच्छे से कवरेज करनी पड़ती है टॉपिक की, सो दैट बाय द टाइम यू आर रीचिंग द थर्ड स्टेज you are not writing a very gibberish, very average answer, but at least better than average answers लिख के आ रहे हो, so that's why nobody gives you 10 out of 10, but your aim should be to score 4.55 marks out of 10 and not 2 or 3 marks. ठीक है, यही डिफरेंस है सारा, इसलिए टॉपर्स भी आपको कभी 100% मार्क्स लाते हुए नहीं दिखते हैं। दे आर ऑफ कोर्स स्कोरिंग अराउंड 50-60% मार्क्स, 55% मार्क्स, क्योंकि वो बेटर देन एवरेज होते हैं। ठीक है, दिस इज ऑल अबाउट GS4। GS2 and 3 में भी सेम अप्रोच फॉलो करना है। ठीक है, नथिंग वेरी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम एथिक्स, आई वुड से द सेम प्रोसेस, सिलेबस नोट्स, प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन आंसर राइटिंग, टॉपर्स कॉपीज। सो ऑफ कोर्स एनी वन फैकल्टीज फाउंडेशन कोर्स ऑफ मटेरियल। GS3 के कुछ मॉड्यूल्स होते हैं, सम फैकल्टीज लॉन्च द एंटायर मॉड्यूल, कुछ लोग सब्जेक्ट वाइज भी करते हैं। सो डिपेंडिंग अपॉन वेर वॉट एवर यू फील कंफर्टेबल, फॉर एवरी सब्जेक्ट यू शुड बी हैविंग एटलीस्ट वन मटेरियल, वन फाउंडेशन कोर्स। ठीक है, एंड यू नीड टू हैव नोट्स फ्रॉम द सेम क्लास, एंड ऑफ कोर्स इफ इट इज हैंड आउट बीइंग गिवन आउट टू यू, उसको भी अपने एंगल से थोड़ा सा कन्वर्ट कर लो, वन पेजर नोट्स बनाओ। आई बी स्पीकिंग इन द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड अबाउट द वन पेजर नोट्स। ठीक है, नोट्स फ्रॉम द सेम क्लास, एंड प्रेफरेबली आईपैड पे बनाओ या हैंड रिटन बनाओ, बट प्लीज बनाओ। मेंस में यू नीड योर नोट्स। ठीक है, बिना नोट्स के काम नहीं चलेगा। कुछ लोग टाइप आउट कर लेते हैं, कुछ लोग कॉपी पेस्ट करते हैं, वो भी चलेगा। in the later, like to the very end, near to the exam, you have to take print out because you have to revise that answer multiple times, revise that content multiple times. But ultimately ये रखो कि random way में नहीं पढ़ना है। मेंस के हर सब्जेक्ट का, हर टॉपिक का you should be having at least 1 page notes। आईपैड पे बनाओ, जैसे ही बनाओ कॉपी पेस्ट करो, whatever, but you should be having notes for it। ठीक है, same thing, PYQ, answer writing, themes, types of questions, you understand how to frame the best introductions, conclusions, and then you tend to understand कि जो मेरे पास ऑलरेडी दो चार घिसे पिटे एग्जाम्पल्स या डेटा या फैक्चुअल इन्फॉर्मेशन है, या केस स्टडीज है, जजमेंट्स है, बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस है, दैट इज नॉट सफिशिएंट, आई नीड टू इंक्लूड मोर। सो देन यू टेंड टू इंक्लूड वेरियड एग्जाम्पल्स, डेटा एंड फैक्ट्स। ठीक है, then of course toppers copies, reality check, time constraint writing हो जाता है when you're going through toppers copies and when you're actually practicing also on your own under the time constraint। ठीक है, तो ये सेम फॉर्मूला हमें अप्लाई करना है GS पेपर्स के लिए। GS1 में भी सेम चीज है, नथिंग वेरी डिफरेंट, सेम। ओके, यहाँ पे मैंने आपको थोड़ा सा चेंजेस कर दिया है दैट इन GS1 बिकॉज कीपिंग इन माइंड यू गॉट ज्योग्राफी, फिजिकल ज्योग्राफी, ह्यूमन इकोनॉमिक ज्योग्राफी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, तो ऑफकोर्स वहाँ पे डायग्राम्स, इंडिया का मैप, वर्ल्ड मैप, ये सारी चीजें प्रैक्टिस करनी होती है। फॉर दैट मैटर इवन इन GS2 व्हेन यू आर डूइंग योर IR, आपको वर्ल्ड मैप आना चाहिए, इंडिया का मैप आना चाहिए। when you're doing the subject of GS3, वहाँ पे इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी के लिए, एग्रीकल्चर के लिए, you should be having the idea of India map। ठीक है, इंडिया मैप ड्रॉ करना आना चाहिए, वर्ल्ड मैप ड्रॉ करना आना चाहिए। इन एक्सेप्ट फॉर आई थिंक GS4, GS1 to 3 पेपर्स में तो कहीं पे भी आप यूज कर सकते हो, जब आएगा तभी तो यूज कर पाओगे, देन ओनली you'll be able to fetch brownie points। ठीक है, so the same perspective, PYQ, answer writing, themes, types of questions, and in GS1 you can't expect the PYQs to repeat, but with that you tend to understand। जैसे उन्होंने अगर ज्योग्राफी में कोई क्वेश्चन पूछा है फिजिकल ज्योग्राफी से, तो यूजुअली वी हैव सीन दैट दे हैव नॉट रिपीटेड इट। ठीक है, क्योंकि फिजिकल ज्योग्राफी में यू गेट लॉट्स ऑफ टॉपिक्स, सो इफ दे हैव आस्क्ड समथिंग that becomes the base, that becomes an understanding कि उसी तरह से मुझे प्रिपेयर करना है फॉर अदर टॉपिक्स ऑल्सो। ठीक है, so PYQs usually GS1 में रिपीट होते नहीं है, even in history it's not repeated, even in art and culture they have not repeated। so with that, with the PYQ you tend to frame a base कि अच्छा अब मुझे जो बाकी मेरे टॉपिक्स हैं उनको मुझे ऐसे ही प्रिपेयर करना है, because if they've already asked about Pallavas, if they already asked about Cholas, maybe they are going to ask about Satavahanas, maybe they are going to ask about some other dynasty empires, about their cultural contributions and all। ठीक है, sculpture and cave and all that, architectural contributions। so similar way में आपको prepare करना है, so don't expect PYQ to repeat as it is, but you get inspired, you learn and you prepare other syllabus points in the same manner। ठीक है, okay, then of course toppers copies, reality check, time constraint writing, ये सारा GS1 to 3 4 में equally applicable है। now what is non-negotiable? when I say non-negotiable, in the perspective of keeping in mind till the month of September and even till the month of November end। ठीक है, so हमें क्या कोशिश करना है 80% ऑफ टोटल सिलेबस कंप्लीट हो जाना चाहिए सितंबर तक, ठीक है, एंड 100% फॉर सर्टेन सब्जेक्ट्स. कुछ सब्जेक्ट्स लाइक आई टोल्ड यू, एग्रीकल्चर, इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी, दे हैव बिकम स्टैटिक फॉर दैट मैटर. डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट जो स्टैटिक पार्ट है वो तो कंप्लीट कर लो. सो जो आपके सिलेबस पॉइंट्स एग्जैक्टली एज इट इज हैं उनको तो आप कंप्लीट करो. दैट इज योर 100% कवरेज, ठीक है. एंड कुछ चीजें आपके करंट अफेयर से बदलती हैं, सो एटलीस्ट फॉर दैट वट एवर करंट अफेयर्स कंटेम्प्रेरी इशूज आर गोइंग अराउंड उसको 80% तक कंप्लीट कर लो. 20% प्रोबेबिलिटी इज दैट पर्सपेक्टिव कि कुछ मान लो कुछ बहुत ही नया होता है, कोई नया स्कीम लॉन्च होता है, some new actions, some new steps are being taken. So then of course वो 20% का हमारे पास कवरेज का later half में या like later on हम उसका possibility रखते हैं. But anything which is already part of your static syllabus वो हमें कवर करना है. So by September that is your first deadline and something is getting left उसको आप नवंबर तक कंप्लीट कर लो. So notes 80% of total syllabus covered होना चाहिए. पढ़ाई तो 100% करनी है सारे सब्जेक्ट्स की, सब टॉपिक्स की, बट नोट्स एटलीस्ट 80%, क्योंकि नोट मेकिंग ऑफ कोर्स इज अ टाइम टेकिंग एक्सरसाइज, नॉट डिनाइंग दैट, बट एटलीस्ट 80% अपना सिलेबस कवर कर लो नोट्स के थ्रू, ठीक है. देन व्हाट इज यू हैव टू एंश्योर इज डोंट वेट कि मेरा सितंबर तक मैं पहले आंसर अपने सिलेबस कंप्लीट करूंगी या करूंगा. आई एम गोइंग टू फर्स्ट कंप्लीट माय सिलेबस एंड देन आई विल स्टार्ट आंसर राइटिंग. दैट्स अ बैड स्ट्रेटजी. Because if you're going to do that, trust me, if you feel that I'm going to write my answer in the month of October for the first time, you are not preparing for 27, but you are preparing for 2028. I hate to break this to you, but the competition is so stiff and difficult day by day, year by year, that you can't assume कि पहले एक काम करके फिर दूसरा काम मैं शुरू करूंगा. So yes, I am not asking you that if you're a very, fresher student, very immature, then you do answer writing from day one. But at least day 5, day 10 onwards, start doing the answer writing. Don't wait for day 100 कि मेरा पूरा GS2 सिलेबस कंप्लीट हो जाएगा तब मैं GS2 का पहला आंसर लिखूंगा. नहीं, GS2 पॉलिटी पढ़ लो. पॉलिटी का सिलेबस काफी वास्ट है. शुरू के पोर्शंस जो आपने पढ़ लिए हैं, व्हेन यू आर कवरिंग द लैटर हाफ ऑफ द पोर्शन ऑफ GS2 पॉलिटी, फिर वहां पे पहले पोर्शन का आंसर राइटिंग कर लो, ठीक है. When you're moving towards maybe social justice, then again, keep on doing the answer writing practice for polity. If you're moving towards IR, then pick up questions from social justice. If you're moving if you're done your IR and you're moving towards governance, then do practice the questions of IR. बट अगर आप ये सोच रहे हो कि पहले मैं GS2 पूरा खत्म कर लूंगा एंड आई एम गोइंग टू कंप्लीट द सिलेबस एंड देन आई विल स्टार्ट माय आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस. एवरी ईयर स्टूडेंट्स डू दिस. इफ यू हैव नॉट रिटन योर फर्स्ट आंसर बाय जून एंड, यू आर ऑलरेडी बिहाइंड. क्योंकि आंसर राइटिंग करने के बाद आपको ज्यादा समझ में आएगा कि मेरे अंदर क्या क्या कमी है. there's a lot of gaps in my preparation, there's a lot of gap in my notes, there's a lot of gap in my understanding of the particular topic and subject. लिखोगे ही नहीं तो वो तो परफेक्शन लगेगा कि वॉट एवर द फैकल्टी इज टीचिंग एंड वॉट एवर इज प्रेजेंट इन माई नोट्स एंड हैंडआउट्स, दैट्स परफेक्ट. नो. So start writing answers. Yes, your day one answers will look horrible. You might even feel ashamed that you have done graduation, or you have done so many years of schooling and you're writing such shitty answers. It's okay. Nobody's, not even toppers, day one answers looks perfect. The copies that you see are usually the copies which are written very near to the actual exam. मेंस के पहले जो वो अभ्यास या जो 10-15 दिन जो पहले टेस्ट लिखते हैं ना, यूजुअली वही रिलीज किया जाता है. Because at that point of time, and still you tend to see a lot of mistakes in that. So can you understand day one पे क्या आंसर लिखा होगा? So don't judge your day one with somebody's day 100, but आपको भी तो day 100 पे पहुंचना है ना. So your day one is not equivalent to day 100, चाहे आप कितना ही पढ़ लो. Day one of answer writing is always going to be horrible. It's always going to give you the feeling of what you have been doing, what you have been preparing. It will make you doubt your preparation. It will make you, doubt yourself. But that's how you're supposed to go for it. So PYQ based answer writing practice करना है. PYQs करना ही है. GS में अगर आप PYQs नहीं करो, frankly for that matter, in UPSC, if you're not doing PYQs, आप बहुत ही compromised way में अपनी preparation कर रहे हो. ठीक है. Then of course you have to understand that per section, per subject nahi, but per section. That means in GS3, if we have internal security, if you have agriculture, if in GS2 you have polity, you have got social justice, governance. Of course, subject to subject, day-wise breakup alag rehta hai. For example, maybe I would not be investing more than 4 days on social justice. but maybe I might need 10 to 12 days just to cover polity. So I've just given you an average figure over here. If you see the block, don't invest more than 10 days on a sectional subject of any paper, because sometimes I've seen students doing polity for 15, 20 days. Internal security 10 दिन कर रहे हैं. नहीं. You need to see that you should not be stretching any subject beyond 10 days. हाँ, 10 का 12 days हो गया, it's fine. 2 days extra लग गए, no problem in that. But अगर आपको लग रहा है that you are doing polity and it's going to take up an entire month, you're already on the wrong track. Please seek help either from your peer group, either from some mentor, some senior, bhaiya, didi, whatever, anybody who can tell you how to cover that subject. Okay, so you will not be ideally investing more than 10 days on a sectional subject of any paper. Sectional subject समझ रहे हो ना, जैसे GS1 में हमारा society हो जाता है, ठीक है, GS2 में you've got your governance, IR and all. So 10 days एक average figure मैंने दिया है, कहीं पे you will take 5-6 days only, कहीं पे you will take maybe 4 days, कहीं पे हो सकता है कि ठीक है 10 के 12 दिन लग गए, but not 15, 20, 30 days on one particular sectional subject. ठीक है? On an average, I think even if you're doing the coverage of mains for the first time, आइडियल वे में डिवाइड कर सकते हो कि 1 month पर सब्जेक्ट. अभी मैंने टाइम दिया जून, जुलाई, अगस्त, सितंबर, सो आप रख सकते हो कि 1 month पर सब्जेक्ट. जैसे ये जून का जो टाइम है, यू स्टार्ट विद GS4. Ethics in 18 to 20 days is doable. Okay, and the rest subjects GS 2, 3, 4 उसमें एक month लगाना चाहते हो to complete the entire syllabus, that's still fine. But if you think that you're going to invest 20 days for doing polity, 20 days for economics, bad strategy. ठीक है? Content enrichment writing basic answers won't fetch high scores, so basically content enrichment is part and parcel. कभी भी आपको लगेगा कि मैंने सब कुछ पढ़ लिया और अब ये सबसे हाईएस्ट एपिटोम ऑफ लर्निंग हो गया है मेरे लिए, नो. So whenever you read and prepare something, always keep scope of adding value to it later on. Okay, because later on also you understand with perspective, with time, that what needs to be added. Sometimes I've seen students adding a lot of irrelevant examples and ideas. For example, पॉलिटी में आपने बहुत सारे केस लॉज लिख दिए हैं, बहुत सारे जजमेंट्स लिख दिए हैं, कुछ रेलेवेंट है, कुछ नहीं रेलेवेंट है. So आप स्कोप रखो टू फिल्टर आउट ऑल्सो, राइट, कि विद टाइम एज आई हैव अंडरस्टूड द टॉपिक बेटर, एज आई हैव अंडरस्टूड द सब्जेक्ट बेटर, देयर शुड बी अ पॉसिबिलिटी टू फिल्टर आउट इररेलेवेंट स्टफ and include maybe stuff which is more relevant. Okay, so content enrichment is part and parcel of your preparation. It will go on from your first attempt, from your first month till the time you get rank. Content enrichment, value addition doesn't stop. That's why you keep on reading current affairs. That's why students, even in their multiple attempts, they tend to keep on doing the courses, writing the test series, keep on, adding value. तो कंटेंट एनरिचमेंट का काम कभी खत्म नहीं होता है, बिकॉज राइटिंग द बेसिक आंसर्स वोंट फेच यू हाई मार्क्स. ठीक है, तो ये हमें कोशिश करनी है. दीज आर दी नॉन नेगोशिएबल्स. ये सारा काम हमें करते जाना है. नाउ वेरी कॉमन क्वेश्चन अबाउट करंट अफेयर्स. देखो, इफ यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर 2027, आई वुड रिकमेंड प्लीज टेक आउट 30 to 45 minutes time for newspaper. एक कोई newspaper लो, you don't have to do multiples. You need to do just one. Pick up the Hindu, the Indian Express, whatever you want, but at least one newspaper on consistent basis you have to cover. Go through the editorials. You don't have to make notes out of it. I am asking you to do newspaper just from the perspective of कि आपका एक idea develop होता है. You get a bird's eye view. You get a broader perspective on certain issues, and also nuance perspective, because sometimes you have to read 10 articles to comprehensively cover one particular issue. But in that one particular article, sometimes they tend to pick up one aspect and discuss in depth about it. So आपका nuance perspective भी generate होता है, which is going to help you in the interview. So interview preparation, after main शुरू नहीं होता है. In a way, simultaneously you are preparing for mains and interview, क्योंकि जो आपका perspective है, the broader take on issues, your overall understanding, your comprehensive understanding, your balanced nuanced perspective, your balanced viewpoint, opinion, all that you will start generating when you start doing newspapers. So ऐसा नहीं होता है. बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स सोचते हैं कि अच्छा मेंस कर लिया है, अब हम 4 न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ेंगे. ऐसा लास्ट मोमेंट करने से it doesn't really happen like that. Sorry. So you need to do newspapers from day one. Initially you might take a lot of time, not denying that, कभी कभी 1 घंटे के ऊपर भी लगता है, but eventually you have to practice to bring it down to within 45 minutes. ठीक है, किसी को 30 minutes लगते हैं, किसी को 45 minutes लगते हैं. Even day 1 to day 2 में भी आपको difference रहेगा, because not every day you get 45 minutes worth articles or editorials present. ठीक है, किसी किसी दिन संडे का मान लो न्यूज़पेपर होगा, not many worthy articles, so 30 minutes में ही आपका काम चल गया. On some days maybe there are too many issues going on, so yes, maybe 45-50 minutes भी लग जाते हैं, but you have to cover newspapers. ठीक है, then you also need to cover current affairs compilations. These both, like in both the things are important, because जो compilations हैं वो आपको one stop solution की तरह एक particular issue को comprehensively cover कर देते हैं. So for example, if India is worried about, in the aftermath of, whatever is going on, the USA, Iran, Israel, issues going on, the impact on India from perspective of, economy, or you could say resources and all that, trade. So all that will be discussed comprehensively at one place in the compilation. That won't be happening in the newspaper editorial. क्योंकि newspaper editorial जो है, वो the person who's writing that is not catering only to UPSC students. He is trying to present a viewpoint, and sometimes that one single viewpoint is equivalent to 1 point of your answer. But compilations में क्या होता है, that they tend to actually compile, they tend to summarize all the major aspects about that particular issue and give point wise at one place. तो compilations करें जरूरी है. कौन से करोगे, your call. I feel everybody is, doing the same thing, nothing very different. It just depends on, I think, your liking. आपको कौन सा font size, किसका type setting, paper का type setting आपको अच्छा लगता है, ठीक है? So you can go for any one. That is all. And also, you need to understand that when you're doing the current affairs, some current affairs issues will not fetch you direct 10 marker or 15 marker question, but they might act as example. So current affairs cross linkages भी सीखना जरूरी है, that sometimes you can use the same example in ethics and same example in IR, or you can use the same example in GS3 and GS2 both. ठीक है? So current affairs cross linkages learn to interpret the same issue in terms of geographical, environmental, governance, societal, ethical implications. So whenever, you've got your USA, Iran, Israel issues going on, you've got, some like you could talk about, the protest by the cockroach, Janata Party, CJP and all, right? So how we can discuss anything right now without mentioning them, right? So, the protest in democracy, it's equally important. So cross linkage होना बहुत जरूरी है. Ethics में भी ये example आ सकता है, आपका GS2 governance में भी आ सकता है, right? Democracy के भी angle से है. So current affairs cross linkages, you should be able to understand and interpret and learn to understand the same issue from geography, society, ethics, governance, all that, environment perspective also for that matter. Okay? But also, please remember that some issues are evergreen, some issues are contemporary issues. They were important 2-3 years back also for the people of, people writing mains in the year of 23 and 24, and it's still going to be relevant even for the people writing mains in the year of 27 and 28. So UPSC is, obsessed with certain themes, certain issues, and that's why we call them contemporary, which have been in news. Maybe certain additions, certain updations are going on. For example, ethanol blending. Okay, ethanol blending program in the petrol. So government has been increasingly, increase the percentage of the ethanol blending, but it has been an issue which has been, in the news for the past 5-6 years actually. So some issues are just maybe changing the data in the current perspective, but overall they are very much important. India's energy security issues, or you could talk about economy, trade, all that. India's bilateral relations, or standing on the multilateral forums, India's stake in UNSC, all that is evergreen topic. ठीक है, तो contemporary issues prepare करके रखना बहुत जरूरी है. Okay, now how can I complete the discussion without actually discussing essay? But देखो, essay I'm going to just discuss because essay of course is equally important in mains, but I cannot devote a lot of time to discuss essay because essay अपने आप में एक अलग discussion and detailed discussion है, right? But what I would help, advise and recommend is that please ensure that apart from doing your optional and GS preparation, you're also doing a little bit about essay. Yes, I'm not asking you to do it from day one, क्योंकि थोड़ा सा उसके लिए GS understanding होना जरूरी है. Especially if you cover ethics, you will have a better understanding of philosophical types of, essays. But you have to do essay. I get many students who wait till October, November to start essay. I would not say it's too late, but yeah, comparatively it's late. So what you can do is, if you're totally not aware what to do, how to start, at least start reading toppers' copies of essays. Watch few videos on how to write essays. Okay, you got a lot of open sessions, lot of faculties taken out videos on YouTube on how to write essays, how to write introduction, how to write body content, how to generate arguments. All that is there. Okay, so first read toppers copies, go for those videos, make some notes out of it, develop your content also. You would see that some themes, UPSC is giving topics based on those themes. You need to develop content. You need to have your own compilation of examples. You need to have your own compilation of codes, ideas, and all that, right? And of course, later on, you have to also practice and brainstorm the previous year topics of essay paper. Okay. And if you feel that you're still blind, you don't know what to do, I would recommend join Alchemy. Okay, Alchemy is my essay writing masterclass, and I have in detail discuss how to write essays. I've divided the sessions into 6 components. In 6 components, even minute aspects of introduction, thesis, brainstorming, how to generate arguments, how to write conclusion, all that is being covered. Okay, even starting with the interpretation. So if you feel that essay is not doable on your own, because I understand many students have this apprehension, they don't know how to go for it in the recent times, keeping in mind the kind of essay marks and the kind of essay topics which are being given out, join Alchemy, join any program for that matter, okay? And so that you're not compromising on essay, because essay is actually becoming a pain point for many students. Okay, now we come to the aspect of note making, and just a moment. Okay, so note making, see, because I wanted to cover all the aspects, but you do understand that एक single चीजों पे topics पे ही एक single video बन सकता है. So on note making, I would say that if you're making on iPad, that's your call. If you're more like a hard copy person, pen and paper kind of person, एक A4 size paper लो on topics, ठीक है? जैसे for every topic, I feel minute small topics, एक A4 size front and back is sufficient. Themes might take larger number of pages, ठीक है, more number of pages. Themes मतलब जैसे मान लो maybe unemployment, maybe skill, poverty, health, education, because when you're discussing these kind of topics, so poverty में तो पहले आपको पता होना चाहिए कि background क्या है and what you have been doing in the past 50-75 years of to alleviate poverty. Then how about elimination of poverty, alleviation of poverty. Then with Niti Aayog, how are we measuring the poverty, right? Measurement भी तो बहुत जरूरी है to remove poverty and all that. So the major themes might take you more pages. Smaller topics, जैसे मान लो जैसे मैंने बोला कि disaster management के अंदर tsunami या earthquake. So I don't think so you need more than 1 page for that, right? So smaller topics, one to two A4 size paper would be good enough. And for themes, of course, you need more pages, because there's a health education maybe. So education maybe you would talk about literacy. So schemes which ensure 100% literacy. Has India been able to achieve 100% enrollment in the primary, secondary and all that? Midday meal schemes, how to, encourage students, nudge students to actually come and get educated because they're getting food. Okay. Then of course the problems with the technical education, higher education, these paper with the leakages, NEET and all that, right? So competitive exams and skill development, all that will come under the education theme. So education theme अपने आप में बहुत broader topic है, and I think you would take 5-6 pages to cover it comprehensively. Health may be same cheese, privatization of healthcare, and primary healthcare का situation क्या है, and the insurance, Ayushman Bharat scheme and all that. So yeah, themes is a larger part of it's going to take time. It's going to have a lot many pages devoted to cover it comprehensively. But when you're going for note making, what aspects need to be covered, or what you need to keep in mind? Now, for any topic, you need to, this is the framework. This is a very basic framework. Ideally, I would suggest please take a screenshot of this, okay? So that you're able to follow this. But देखो ये थोड़ा सा topic to topic and subject to subject vary करेगा, ठीक है? This is a framework, this is a skeleton, but of course it's going to vary because you will be adding, different aspects to it. So what aspects to include? Of course, whenever you're dealing with any topic, you should be having its definition or explanation, which can be used as introduction, ठीक है? If I'm talking about maybe, what is an earthquake, or for that matter, any physical, what is plate tectonic theory. So you should be having your ready-made definition and explanation of that particular topic available. Of course, health mein aisa nahi you will be defining health, but I'm just saying that whatever, if there's a possibility of introduction or an explanation, please write it down, because that can be used as ready-made introductions for your answer based on that topic. Okay. Then of course, for that particular topic, you need to also see what's its background, what's the history, what's the origin point, or any phenomena, right? So plate tectonic theory या plate tectonics क्या होते हैं? You need to explain that phenomena, right? What is plate tectonic? How many plates are there all across the world, right? So that major plates का मान लो diagram बना के आप दिखा रहे हो in in NCERT geography, you have those diagrams. So draw it, include that in your note making. So background history origination बहुत जरूरी है. For example, you could say topics like food processing मान लो. So background history कुछ food processing का नहीं होगा, but maybe why it is needed, what is food processing, and when we process the food, what is the the benefit out of it. So yeah, why it is needed. So that kind of explanation needs to be there. Then issues, reasons, causes, because that is where the real question would be. Any type of question being asked to you would always be about highlighting the challenges, the problems associated with that particular issue. ठीक है? So अगर left wing extremism है या terrorism है, तो उसके पीछे का बैकग्राउंड क्या है, ठीक है? If you got a cyber security, then of course, why it is important, the background, the history is that why cyber security is important for any country in the present world. But of course, when we have the cyber security, things in place, still there are cyber attacks. So what are the reasons, causes behind it? So issues, reasons, yeah, what are the issues behind, what are the reasons, causes behind insurgency, left-wing extremism, terrorism, right? So all that you need to include in your write-up, in your notes. So issues, reasons, causes could be single themed, could have multiple categories. That means maybe, single theme, that means maybe one particular reason is the origination point, or one particular reason is the only, major explanation for the issue. Or it could be multiple. It could be, political, economic, environmental, social, technological, right? So you can even categorize into multiple aspects, right? For example, left-wing extremism ka agar hai, so you do understand that, of course, there's, socio-economic problem. It's governance problem also. It's, you could say lack of political will. ठीक है, ये सारी चीजें भी हैं included. And the issue of jal jungle zameen, right? These are the catchphrases. These are the important keywords. So multiple categories में भी आप issues को categorize कर सकते हो, or it could be single themed also. ठीक है? Then of course you have to also include the solution. The government must have already been tackling it, must have already introduced some schemes, some policies to solve that problem. So you need to include that also. But sometimes if that particular scheme, policy already launched to solve that problem has become old, or maybe is not able to achieve its target, then the shortcoming or the criticism. So criticism and appraisal of such policy or schemes is also equally important. ठीक है? So for example, maybe जैसे cyber security मैंने बोला, तो cyber security we have all the policies, and the government has put in all kinds of certain and this and that national cybersecurity policy, but maybe still it is lagging behind in certain. So uska criticism, uska appraisal, uska shortcoming. Appraisal is something that it had aimed to achieve, and it has achieved something. So that is the appraisal कि आपने कुछ अच्छा किया है, आपने कुछ अचीव किया है, जैसे स्वच्छ भारत मिशन, right? So open defecation free हमने किया है, but there are still some shortcomings, there's still some criticism which is applicable. So criticism and appraisal for those policy schemes under that particular topic and theme, that is also needs to be covered then and there in that particular note making. ठीक है? Then what more can be done? बिकॉज आपने कोई स्कीम तो लॉन्च कर दिया, उससे मान लो 50 to 60% अपने टारगेट्स को अचीव कर लिए, बट देन इट इज स्टिल लैगिंग बिहाइंड 40% एंड ऑल. सो व्हाट मोर कैन बी डन? व्हाट इज द वे फॉरवर्ड? इन दिस वे फॉरवर्ड यू नीड टू इंक्लूड सम इकोनॉमिक सर्वे सजेशंस, you could include suggestions from finance commission, you could include suggestions from committees, law commissions, depending on what the topic is, right? So वहां पे आपको way forward में वो चीजें बतानी है. Even you could include the international best practices that maybe India needs to learn from, the best practices from the other countries. So that is all what you have to include, right? That is the solution part basically. What more can be done or way forward is the actual solution. Then conclusion, because you, just like I told you, that definition and explanation can be used to write introduction. Similarly, for that particular topic, if a question is being asked on that particular topic, you need to have conclusion. So generate some quote, like not your own quote self-made, but a quote, a statement from maybe Prime Minister, or that particular minister, or external affairs minister for that matter, on IR issues, or any generic quote for that matter, any erstwhile political leader has given that quote, sorry, or maybe something, a connection to contemporary issues, right? So all that you can use as the conclusion. So when you write it down as part of your notes, it will actually help you to use that as it is as conclusion in your answers. ठीक है? सो जो नोट मेकिंग आप कर रहे हो ना, उसको इतना जेनरिक या उसको बहुत हल्के में नहीं लेना है. यू डोंट हैव टू डू अ शॉर्टी जॉब विद इट. डू अ प्रॉपर वर्क फॉर नोट मेकिंग, बिकॉज नोट मेकिंग आपकी एक फोटोग्राफिक मेमोरी बनाएगा. लाइक दैट पर्टिकुलर नोट्स, द कंटेंट विल मेक अ फोटोग्राफिक मेमोरी, एंड यू कैन यूज दैट कंटेंट टू डू व्हाट, टू राइट एन आंसर. दैट्स व्हाई आई एम आल्सो asking you to generate introductions, write those in definitions and all, generate conclusion also. ठीक है? तो ये सारे aspects हैं, but this is one basic framework, one basic you could say skeleton and basic idea to deal with any topic. But there's one another aspect which is value addition. ठीक है? वैल्यू एडिशन क्या होता है कि जब आप रीजंस, इश्यूज, कॉजेस, चैलेंजेस, डिफिकल्टीज, शॉर्टकमिंग्स, अप्रेजल, क्रिटिसिज्म कर रहे हो, तो वहां पे आप एग्जांपल दे रहे हो. You are including some data. So for that particular topic, you need to include what? You need to include diagrams. You need to include schematics. You also need to include flow charts. ठीक है? Whatever is possible in that particular topic. You need to have collection of relevant data. You need to have a collection of facts. If the topic is related to governance or polity or constitution, you need to have judgments, laws, rules, constitutional articles, which whatever is applicable to that particular thing. Okay. Then committee recommendations. You've got committee basically for economy, agriculture, sometimes internal security also. So for tribal welfare. So committee recommendations are compulsory for those particular issues. Okay. Then you can go for, though second ARC now has become very old, but still certain suggestions are still important. So if you got any second ARC recommendations for that particular topic, any report, multi-dimensional poverty index, and some UN reports and World Bank reports and IMF reports and WEF reports and all, if you want to bring in those suggestions, those rankings, and indices of the India, where it is standing and all, that you can do. Economic survey recommendations, suggestions from economic survey, very important. That is also value addition, great value addition. And of course, statements, quotes by experts, ministers, prime minister, or even president, right? So this all comes under the aspect of value addition, because of course you've already prepared a basic framework, basic issues, but when you have the data, facts, you can use them to substantiate your argument. Okay, because if you're mentioning that so and so much people, million people are out of poverty, so that's how you say that, okay, the poverty alleviation programs or the work of Niti Aayog or the government is doing a good work, right? It is actually working for the person at the last mile. It is reaching till the last mile. So that kind of substantiation and examples are needed to be given with the argument that you're presenting. ठीक है? तो ये सारा आपके notes में होना चाहिए. And I've given you an example over here. I think this part maybe you're not able to see because my face is over here. So basically, very data examples, but I'll come to this part later on. Let's first discuss. So I've picked up a topic like self-help group, and I've tried to give you a फॉर्मेट कि हम कैसे लिख सकते हैं, क्योंकि वो एक बेसिक फॉर्मेट था. यहाँ पे मैंने एक टॉपिक को ही पिकअप कर लिया है, एंड देन आई एम ट्राइंग टू हेल्प यू अंडरस्टैंड कि हमारे पास क्या क्या नोट्स में होना चाहिए. सो द टॉपिक इज सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप from the topic of you could say governance and social justice, including that. Then so you need to start with definition, or you need to introduce, you need to have proper 2 to 3 sentences which introduces the concept of self-help group. Okay, why it came into existence? Because it was projected as a solution for an issue. Okay, so what was that issue and why it came into existence? Okay, how did it resolve the issues presently? So the shortcoming and the appraisal part, right? That self-help group has been able to, of course, achieve some of the objectives, but it has not been entirely successful. So how was it able to resolve the issues? Okay, the achievements need to be highlighted over here. Successful case studies. Okay, so here case studies is a better word rather than best practice, because case study, that means successful examples, right? Case studies are basically elaborated examples for that matter. So any successful case study, that Kudum Shri is a very 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 generic name, example for that matter. So successful case studies, you need to include that. ठीक है, in your answer, so that you could say that yes, this has been achieved and this is one successful example for that particular thing. Then contemporary challenges. Sometimes maybe you solve the problem, just like Green Revolution solved the crisis of food, right, for Indians. But now we know that it has also generated new set of problems. So what are the contemporary challenges? So self-help group is also undergoing some contemporary challenges. Something which was hailed as revolutionary, as a success, but maybe in the later times was not able to achieve its objective, or maybe started faltering. ठीक है, जैसे ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन का एग्जांपल दिया मैंने. So something hailed as revolutionary can be criticized later on due to lack of intended achievements. ठीक है, या मे बी कहीं पे अचीवमेंट हुआ है, कहीं पे नहीं हुआ है. You do understand that India, some schemes, some policies work in certain regions, but in other regions it fails miserably, right? A very common example is population control. Population control has worked wonders in southern states, right? But in the North Indian belt, we don't find that, right? So that's how regional differences, regional variations would come in, and that is why you need to see that वो कहाँ पे fail हो रहा है, और fail हो रहा है तो क्यों fail हो रहा है, what are the kind of challenges it is facing, right? कुछ challenges आपके automatically 21st century challenges हैं, environment related, technology related. Maybe the technology, the scientific, technological, and technology and innovations are happening at a very exponential rate, but people are not able to adopt it. People are adopting it in linear way, but the growth is exponential. So there's a gap, right? So those kind of challenges need to be addressed. ठीक है. Then case studies of incompetence. मान लो आपको self help group में भी कुछ case studies आपको दिखाई पड़े जहाँ पे it did not work in a proper way, right? What more can be done? So see, you don't throw the concept out because it's not working. Every concept works, but also has some inherent problem attached with it, right? So ऐसा नहीं होता कि पूरा चीज ही आप scrap कर दो या पूरा policy और scheme ही scrap कर दोगे, right? If it is still existing, it needs to be seen that maybe it requires modification, some overhauling, some modification, some value addition, something needs to be done. Maybe government needs to support, or some other, you could say forums need, some NGOs or some civil society organization needs to support them. So something more can be done because the concept is good. Maybe they are faltering because of the lack of support, right? Maybe the credit support and all that with the banks. Okay. So what more can be done? Of course, that is how you're supposed to write it. And then, of course, towards the very end, positive statement or a quote in favor of self-help groups, like how it has helped empower women. I hope you understand the concept of self-help group, right? It is for the purpose of empowering women. It is helpful for to make the women financially and education wise empowered, right? And of course a lot of because coming together many women contribute and all that, so it is a community effort, and of course these kind of efforts are appreciated by panchayats, by the local self government also. So that's why a positive statement. You're not going to say because if self-help group is not working, you are going to erase or you're going to eradicate the concept. No, it's just that maybe something was working, now it is not working because of certain exterior external challenges. Now you need to work on those challenges and difficulties, and then maybe again make the self-help group become a success, right? So positive statement or quote in favor of the self-help group could become your conclusion for the answer. Now what's the value addition? Value addition is of course the data. If you have some data available, any research, any report was conducted that okay, how many self-help groups are present in the country and how many of them have been successful. If you have some examples, Kudumshri, I told you there are many other examples for that matter. Expert recommendations, you could talk about maybe some socio-economists, experts talking about that issue. They are giving recommendations, they are suggesting something how to improve. The case studies is a neutral term, it could be both positive and negative. Best practices of course is a positive term. So anything which is has accomplished something, has been appreciated, that becomes a best practice. Case study could be both, that you're learning something from them in a negative or a positive way. It could be neutral, right? Then any quote by sociologists, social justice, governance bodies, experts, committee recommendations, Niti Aayog for that matter, right? So all that you can include. So this is how you make the notes, okay? These, of course, issues, you'll be able to get some of them directly from one basic standard source, but some maybe you have to do a little bit of extra effort. You have to maybe refer to some compilations, some, extra notes, or maybe do a Google search, do a, ChatGPT, Claude kind of search. Okay, and then make your notes comprehensive. But this is one example. Okay. Similarly, for border management, I just try to take up diverse examples. So one example from GS2 and one example from GS3 internal security. So border management, right? Same sort of skeleton, but of course variations would be there, because as per the topic and as per the questions demand, you have to give the idea, you have to give the content. So border management, of course, what is the definition? What is the understanding behind it, right? So the definition of the border management is that introduction and what you will be talking about, that what you will be there to actually say about border management. So definition and introduction about the border management and fact about India's international borders. That factual information, that data could also be used as India's introduction, like how much India is having the international borders, that kilometer wise. So you could start, because that would put across the point that because we have so much of vast border management is an important issue, is an important, you could say, even threat to internal security for that matter. So why it came into existence, the history. So of course, border management is needed because we have border issues, and we need to draw an India map to show that how with Pakistan we have borders ranging from mountains to desert to creeks of the Gujarat, those marshy, swampy areas. On the eastern side, of course, we have the riverine borders with Bangladesh, the Sundarbans Delta and all. You could talk about the dense forests, all that in the northeast. So the variations are there, and that is why you can best showcase it via an India map. So why it came into existence? Okay, the history part of it also you can mention, and you have to draw the India map to show the border issues. Then challenges faced with border management. Okay, so the challenges faced with border management, of course, each region has separate issue. So ideally, I would say that you deal it region wise. Southern, of course, it's maritime, borders. The other northern side, of course, you've got the Himalayas and all that, right? So talk region wise, separate issues are there. Okay, government initiatives over the years start with the old and of course focus more on the recent. Recent would be a separate category, because you have to of course talk about that initially what we were doing about the how to manage borders previously, maybe 10-15 years back. But in the recent times, you have to focus, give weightage more to that, because in the recent times हमने क्या क्या किया है, that comprehensive border management systems and all, CIVMS, all that, right? So or installing these sensors and installing those drones and the training the personnel and all, the CAPF and all, right? Paramilitary forces and all that, all those are there. So government initiatives, old and new, of course you have to talk about, but give more weightage to the recent ones. Contemporary challenges, issues still not resolved, or we are still maybe border management is something which is as a problem is consistent threat. You cannot maybe be vigilant for only 30 days or 20 days and not for 10 days, because it's every day, it's a constant threat. So in a way you have to bring those issues, right? Talk about case studies, talk about international best practices, what other countries have done to secure their borders and all, what more can be done from Indian perspective, some changes, modifications, because sometimes we do have heard about the smuggling happening at the borders, human trafficking, smuggling of the cattle and all that, and even BSF Jawans getting involved. And I'm not targeting BSF over here, of course, whatever paramilitary forces are situated over there, or so of course they are involved sometimes in the corruption. So overhaul, modification, government support, technology. Of course, in these kind of issues, you have to include technology. In most of the issues in current times, please include the usage of, technical know-how, innovations, and even AI for that matter. ठीक है, health में भी आजकल AI बहुत आ गया है, education में तो है ही. So, do see that in that particular topic, what kind of technology, innovations, and know-how you can include, right? And of course, you can include the statement quotes by authorities. So this is with the basic skeleton, this is the basic framework. Then as from the perspective of value addition, data, examples, recommendations by experts, case studies, best practices. Okay, sorry, I think copy pasted it over here. So yeah, it's not exactly code by sociologists, but yeah, the experts and all that, right? So the different, you could say, defense committee experts, defense personnel, army chiefs and all that talking about. So those ideas you need to include. ठीक है, internal security पे भी बहुत सारे committees बने हुए हैं. Okay. Now we come to the aspect of PYQ. So yes, I've already explained a lot about PYQ, but again, I'm reiterating over here at the cost of repetition that before you start any subject, any topic, please start with the PYQ. Go through it to understand how UPSC is expecting what kind of coverage, what kind of questions, and in what pattern and type they're also asking. Are they making it too complicated? Are they making it too contemporary, current affairs based? Are they, start asking it in a very straightforward way? All that you need to understand. So get the perspective so that you can cover the topic, okay, in adequate, in-depth way, and also understand the variety and pattern. Because left-wing extremism, या cyber security, या self-help group, या civil society organizations and NGOs or pressure groups, you have been asked multiple times. Questions have been asked multiple times on these topics, but the way they ask varies a lot. Year to year, they are not copy pasting the same question. So you need to understand, kabhi kabhi itna cryptic bhi rehta hai that you're not able to understand that they are talking about pressure groups or those NGOs or civil society organizations. So they are playing with words and all. So ye aap agar seekh jaoge with the aspect of going in depth with the previous year questions, it will be easy for you to understand the demand of the question in the actual exam. Okay? And you need to practice PYQs on daily basis. No I would say nothing being given as concession over there. Add value wherever content, data, examples, framework feels missing. So wherever you feel that, yes, something is missing, I'm not being able to understand, I don't have the content for it, I don't have suitable data, example, or report for that, please do value addition over there. Okay. Now, coming to the aspect of answer writing, again, I said, yeah, I'm going to touch all the aspects, but you understand that answer writing in itself is a separate session, right? So for an amateur, for somebody who's just started into answer writing, very new to the process of answer writing, I would say, start with toppers copies. Start reading them, start understanding first, and don't be in a hurry. Start, पहले तो समझो कि question क्या पूछा है. ठीक है, understanding the demand of the question is also very important, and then you go through the toppers copies, like see what they have written as answer, उस answer को भी समझो कि उन्होंने कैसे उसको break down किया है. ठीक है, because the first step in understanding or going towards answer writing is understanding the question and also understanding that how to structure the answer. वो एक ही फ्लो में आप नहीं लिखते हो पैराग्राफ आफ्टर पैराग्राफ. You have to structure it out because most of the questions will be having at least 2 to 3 sub parts. तो वो सारे sub parts address हो, you need to be able to understand that. So see in the topper's answer कि उसने कैसे structure किया है, कैसे तोड़ा है अपने आंसर को, कैसे decode किया है. ठीक है. So question interpretation and decoding, understanding the various subparts, okay? Understanding the expectation of UPSC through those questions. Divide it into parts, 2, 3, depending on the question. Sometimes they have two, minimum 2 to rehte hi hain, okay? 2 questions, 3 questions, sometimes even hidden 4, okay? Because maybe they have given you a statement that is the hidden part, that is the implicit. So आपने कई बार टॉपर स्टॉक में सुना होगा, understand the implicit demand, understand the explicit demand. Explicit demand हुआ जहां पे मैंने directly आपसे पूछा what is cyber security. Implicit demand हुआ that maybe you were given a statement and then just that statement also needs to be discussed. But that was a statement, that was not a question. But you also need to discuss in slight bit, of course, not giving a lot of weightage, थोड़े से ही words में, थोड़े से ही sentences में उस part को भी discuss करना है, ठीक है? So 2 to 3 to 4, depending on what kind of questions being asked, इतना सब parts तो होता ही है. 10 marker में I have easily seen 2, कभी-कभी UPSC ज़्यादा adventurous हो जाती है, तो 3 सब parts हो जाते हैं 10 markers में, but usually 2 parts you would always see. ठीक है, one could be explicit, one could be implicit, but आप 2 parts definitely पाओगे in 10 markers. In 15 markers, 3 and 4, that is how they vary around. ठीक है, and sometimes even 2 for that. 15 markers में भी 2 आपको दिख जाते हैं. That means they want lot of points, they want a lot of weightage on that particular sub part. ठीक है. So 2 to 3 depending on the question, how they have framed it. Then you have to generate points for each subhead. देखो, I would say minimum 4, maximum 6. ठीक है. Different people talk about different 12-18 points. ये ऐसे calculate नहीं कर सकते हैं that in every question you should be having 12 to 18 points and all. For every subhead you can go for this kind of variation. तो subhead जैसे मान लो जो explicit part है या implicit part है. Implicit part में maybe you're just writing 3-4 ideas. जो explicit part है, which is the direct question expected by the UPSC, you need to include 5 to 6 points. So that's why I've given you a range 4 to 5 to 6. 4 is the minimum, 6 is the maximum. These number of points, and of course the topic will also be deciding. मान लो issue का जो causes या reasons है वो 4 ही हैं या 5 ही हैं, तो you can't generate the 6th one. If there are only 4 pillars to certain issue, then of course वो 4 pillar पे ही हमें discuss करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, sometimes जैसे sometimes they have asked a question on the basis of the accessibility, affordability kind of thing, right? So वो आपके 3 पिलर ही बनते हैं फिर, तो 3 पिलर के अंदर फिर मल्टीपल पॉइंट्स बनेंगे. सो दैट्स हाउ यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. दैट्स व्हाई यू कांट फिक्स अ like a skeleton or a framework for every question. The question demand needs to be understood, and accordingly the points needs to be generated. But ideally this is the range 4 to 5 to 6, because when you're studying that particular topic, इतना points आपके पास होना चाहिए. Then when you're actually thinking about writing answers, introduction conclusion भी आपको सोचना है, आपको देखना है, topper copy से भी understand करो, खुद से भी, that what introduction conclusion actually is addressing the direct demand. Sometimes I have seen students having the content and the body content perfect, but the introduction conclusion is very compromised. The problem is कि जैसे ही evaluator ने पढ़ना शुरू किया, आपका introduction conclusion इतना compromise है कि impression ही खराब हो गया. Introduction especially, right? And if you're writing a very generic introduction, जो सबको ही लिख रहा है, तो and it is not even addressing the demand of the question. So you need to understand your introduction conclusion needs to be framed in such a way which is in sync with the question, which is addressing the core demand of the question. Okay? And you need to add in diagrams and schematics. Sometimes I have seen students writing an answer, but examples गायब हैं. Millet जैसे question में अगर आप millet के examples नहीं दिखा रहे हो या लिख रहे हो, मिलेट जैसे क्वेश्चन में अगर आपने इंडिया का मैप ड्रॉ करके नहीं बताया कि मेजर मिलेट ग्रोइंग एरियाज कौन से हैं, बाजरा, रागी एंड ऑल दैट, राइट? सो then you're doing a substandard job, an average job in the answer writing. So you need to iron diagram, schematic मतलब वही कि मान लो फ्लो चार्ट है, कुछ पिलर्स आप दिखाना चाहते हो, ठीक है? So that's what the schematic is. Then points written can't be with without substantiation. Whatever argument you're making, if I'm saying that India is a poor country, of course I'm not going to write it in such a crude way, but I'm just giving an example that I cannot write in this general vague way. I need to present that, okay, as per this particular report or as per this particular data or recent data released by the government, so much and so many people, million people are still living under poverty line. Okay, yeah, these many people have been lifted above poverty. So if I'm trying to make a argument, if I'm trying to make a point as an answer, as part of my answer, I need to give some substantiation. It could be through article, it could be through data, it could be some factual thing, it could be certain committee also, that okay, this was suggested by this committee, or as per this report, so many people are, whatever the factual information you want to write about. So when you write answers, of course, you have to keep these aspects in mind. You can take a screenshot of this page also, keep in mind. But of course, there will be variations. There are a lot many topics. So you will decide as per the topic that you are preparing and as per the question that you're writing an answer upon. Okay. Now here we come to the, just to give an example, because answer writing में हम अभी answer write नहीं करते, but yeah, to give an example, this is the copy of rank 3 Akash Dhul, and I have picked up 2 questions from his answer copy. So let's have a look how he has tried to address. And yes, you might not appreciate the handwriting, but you also understand that this is legible. With this, I want to put across one point which is very important. People who don't have legible handwriting, even if you're well prepared, you're not going to fetch high scores. So please work on the legibility aspect. You do understand this is not a very perfect or very beautiful handwriting for that matter, but this is legible. If he has written communal riots, I'm able to understand that. If he has written different identities, I'm able to understand that. Deep-seated bias, right? Just tip of iceberg. Sometimes you write few words, but if it is not being legible, like person जो पढ़ रहा है, evaluator जो पढ़ रहा है, वो अगर समझ नहीं पा रहा है तो वो आपको number नहीं दे पाएगा. So please write answers with neat presentation, ensuring legibility and all, okay? So yeah, the question here is, communalism today manifests not only in violence, but also in everyday exclusion. Discuss with examples from education, housing, and employment. Now, this is a 10 marker. And you do understand that the explicit demand of the question is discuss with examples from education, housing, and employment. ये तो आपका implicit, ये तो आपका explicit demand हो गया, ठीक है? जहाँ पे 3 categories आपके वैसे ही बन जा रहे हैं, education, housing, and employment. But the first statement, communalism today manifests not only in violence but also in everyday exclusion. So आपको ये जो पहला statement है, इसको भी discuss थोड़ा बहुत करना है. Not in much detail because it's only 150 words, 10 marker question, but you have to discuss the answer. So let's see how he has started the answer. He has written, of course, he has introduced the concept. He has introduced the concept with the definition. Communalism refers to the idea that people having similar religion also have similar social economic interests which are incompatible with others. Manifestation of violence. He has given these three examples because the topic is expecting, it's written not only in violence. That means you also need to give examples of the violence जहाँ पे communal angle था. ठीक है, because the topic in the upcoming aspects is expecting you to talk about exclusion, कि कम्युनलिज्म आजकल सिर्फ वायलेंस के थ्रू नहीं, it is also manifesting itself as exclusion when you're going for housing, when you're going for education, वहां पे discrimination हो रहा है based on religion, right? So in the same way, casteism based question भी बन सकता है, that we still are experiencing exclusion based on caste, right? Based on gender, employment में, all that, right? So even housing भी होता है, single women, divorcee women, or widowed women for that matter are not able to secure housing for themselves, safe housing, safe shelter. So in a way, the actual demand, the direct demand of the topic is about, how people are exercising communal notions and exclusion are being experienced by people at the other end who are being discriminated in the aspects of education, housing, and employment. But जो पहला पार्ट है कि वो वायलेंस की तरह भी दिखता है, that of course needs to be written. So can you see he has given 3 examples. So having, sometimes I told you, current affairs, not every current affairs topic or thing that you're reading can generate a 10 marker full-fledged answer, but it can be used as an example. So he was aware that, okay, Jodhpur mein beheading hua, कुकी में थी conflict, religious angle है, mob lynching है, ठीक है? So he has given all those examples that how communalism is also manifesting as violence, but of course everyday exclusion. So also everyday exclusion, because he has also written here, shown through a diagram, that violence is just tip of iceberg. We have daily exclusion, different identities, and deep-seated bias. Then of course now from here only he has started addressing the core demand, because core demand kya hai? Education, housing, employment. So he has talked about education. He has given 1 2 3 4 points. Okay, I think 3 points he has written. Housing mein he has written here points, and total he has given 7 points. So but heading wise diya hai. So education mein they're also expecting you to write some points. हाउसिंग में they're expecting, he has mentioned, देखो कमिटी recommendations, मतलब कमिटी ने क्या ऑब्जर्व किया है, कमिटी के recommendations होते हैं और कमिटी के ऑब्जर्वेशंस भी होते हैं. Here he has included the committee observations. ठीक है, so ghettoization and all, employment में he has brought in the articles that how it is discriminating against this article, or how this article the fundamental right is getting you could say like it's going against the FRs. ठीक है, and why part is also in a slight bit recommended, that why exclusion, ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है. So this is the manifestation that how this is happening. Okay, and he has also written the conclusion. So can you see lot of content, every part is addressed properly. इंट्रोडक्शन दिख रहा है, बॉडी कंटेंट दिख रहा है, बॉडी में भी जो इम्प्लिसिट पार्ट है उसका डिमांड दिख रहा है यहाँ पे एड्रेस होते हुए, एक्सप्लिसिट पार्ट भी एड्रेस हुआ है विद प्रॉपर एग्जांपल्स, रेफरेंसेस, एग्जांपल, आर्टिकल्स, कमिटी रिकमेंडेशन आ गया है, रेफरेंसेस आ गए एग्जांपल के, एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स this part is also being discussed ki why exclusion, and conclusion is also being written. To 10 marker में भी पूरा IBC format follow हुआ है, and that's how you get the score. ठीक है, of course there could be some I'm not saying that this is a perfect answer और इसके beyond कुछ नहीं लिखा जा सकता है. No, maybe you can write a better answer for this particular question, but I'm just talking from the structural perspective. ठीक है, not from the content perspective. So structure हमें ऐसे ही follow करना है, plus the presentation part. Your evaluator should be able to see that you have addressed all the parts. Okay, then this is your another question on regionalism. Okay, because I think I've picked up the screenshots from his copy of GS1 या society का ही शायद answer था. So again, a question on regionalism. Regionalism becomes problematic when it turns exclusive and antagonistic to the national mainstream. Discuss the constitutional and administrative mechanisms available to accommodate regional aspirations while preserving national unity. Now, this is discussing part, of course, is the explicit demand, but this part, the first statement, also needs to be discussed. So regionalism turns exclusive more often not as a response to exclusive nationalities. He has given an example. This is the introduction part. Constitutional and administrative mechanisms he had tried to discuss. He has also, drawn a diagram. This is called a schematic, right? He has tried to include that. He has given references of articles. He has tried to include multiple points, okay? And he has also given the conclusion. So yes, the answer is well structured. You are giving an impression to the evaluator that you have addressed all the demands of the question. You have not missed out on. And of course, by content perspective, yeah, we could see the content over here, okay, because articles are being mentioned, instances are being given, ideas have been written, arguments have been presented, okay, और हर part का हमें 3-4 ideas दिखी जा रहा है. So 4, 1, 5, you could see all these 6, points being written, and 1, 2, 3, 4 यहाँ पे address किया है, फिर यहाँ पे 1, 2, 3, 4 points. So this is how. So इसलिए fix नहीं कर सकते हैं कि 12 point 18 point. But yes, for every subheading, go for 4 to 5 ideas. एंड अगर 3 पॉसिबल है तो 3 ही लिखो, नो प्रॉब्लम, बट वो 3 सब्सटैंशिएट प्रॉपर्ली होने चाहिए. इट शुड बी डिस्कस्ड एडिक्वेटली, ठीक है. सो दिस इज व्हाट यू आर सपोज टू एंश्योर विद द answer writing. Okay, a very brief but a very short concise way to help you understand what is answer writing. Of course, I told you I can discuss answer writing in a separate 2-hour video, and if I get the chance, of course I'll be going for that also. But yeah, to get you started, at least this is how we need to start. So start reading toppers copy, start understanding how they're addressing each and everything, every part, sub part of the question, what content they are presenting. Okay, that brings me to the plan B also, discussion towards plan B. Now, if this is going to be your, 2027 is going to be your first or second attempt, I would recommend don't go for plan B at this point of time. Please devote the proper time to preparation of UPSC, because UPSC CSE के लिए ही full fledged हमें 12 महीने चाहिए होते हैं. आप देख रहे हो मेंस के पर्सपेक्टिव से आपको कितना सारा काम करना होता है. इसमें आप प्लान भी ले आओगे तो कहीं ना कहीं आप डिस्ट्रैक्ट हो गए. But yes, if you're into your third, fourth attempt and you're, maybe there's a pressure on from the family perspective to, settle down and to maybe have some job security, maybe you're facing some financial, issues, then of course plan B होना चाहिए. But देखो, plan B not at the cost of UPSC. देखो, UPSC ने आपको नहीं बोला है plan B करने के लिए. You are doing it because you want to gain a job security. You want to have that feeling that okay, एक job तो आ गया, maybe now I can relax and study for UPSC. But बहुत सारे students के साथ मैं देखती हूँ, last year many exams were happening, RBI, EPFO, NABARD and all that. When you prepare for such exams, you totally stop reading about UPSC, and then you blame later on कि आपका prelims नहीं निकल रहा, आपका mains नहीं निकल रहा. So if you are preparing for any exam which is categorized under plan B, state PCS, RBI, NABARD, EPFO, banking exams, CAT, VAT, whatever, every day there should be certain hours devoted for UPSC. प्लान बी के चक्कर में प्लान ए को ही गायब नहीं कर देना है, ठीक है. सो इन सिंपल वर्ड्स व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू इम्प्लाई इज दैट एनी एग्जाम दैट यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग अपार्ट फ्रॉम यूपीएससी सिविल सर्विसेज, yes, you need to devote time for it. ऐसा भी नहीं कि उस plan B को बहुत हल्के में आप लोगे, क्योंकि you're just fooling yourself. Every exam nowadays has a lot of competition. But it doesn't also mean that plan B को हम करेंगे plan A को compromise करके, ठीक है. So divide your time. Maybe you have to increase your hours. मैंने अगर 10 घंटे बोले तो आपको शायद 12 घंटे पढ़ने पड़े. So that you're devoting 6 hours for your plan B and 6 hours also for plan A. But it shouldn't mean कि हम सिर्फ 6 घंटे पढ़ेंगे और सिर्फ plan B को 6 घंटे देंगे. यूपीएससी को तो हम बाद में देख लेंगे क्योंकि हमारा 1 साल बाद एग्जाम है. इफ यू आर हैविंग अ थॉट प्रोसेस लाइक दैट, यू आर गोइंग टू कॉम्प्रोमाइज. आई एम अगेन टेलिंग यू, आपको अगर 27 दूर लग रहा है तो एक्चुअली मेंटली आप प्रिपेयर हो जाओ 2028 एग्जाम के लिए, ठीक है. 2027 का अटेम्प्ट बहुत दूर नहीं है. यू हैव टू डू लॉट ऑफ वर्क एंड यू हैव टू जस्ट डोंट डू इट वन टाइम. आपको ऑप्शनल, आपको जीएस 1 2 3 4 के इटरेशंस भी करने हैं, रिविजन्स भी करने हैं, आंसर राइटिंग को इंप्रूव करना है, डे 1 से डे 100, डे 300 पे भी जाना है. ओवरऑल लॉट मेनी आंसर्स नीड्स टू बी रिटन, एंड मींस तो स्पेशली आपको नवंबर एंड तक अपना रैप अप करना है. दिसंबर जनवरी इज जस्ट फॉर रिविजन, दिसंबर जनवरी इज जस्ट फॉर वैल्यू एडिशन, ठीक है. सो अगर आप ये सारी चीज नहीं कर रहे हो तो एक्चुअली आई बी वेरी फ्रैंक, इन अ वे फिर आपका 27 का अटेम्प्ट भी कॉम्प्रोमाइज होगा, फिर आप 28 के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो, ठीक है. सो यू नीड टू बी वेरी सिंसियर, एंड ऑफ कोर्स इट नीड्स टू बी सीन फ्रॉम केस टू केस बेसिस. 1 to 1 भी देखना पड़ता है कि ऑफ कोर्स व्हाट इज योर सिचुएशन, व्हाट इज योर बैकग्राउंड. बट आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू, प्लान बी डजंट मीन दैट प्लान ए इज गेटिंग कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड. It just simply means that you have to put in lot much efforts than your peer group, than the person who's just preparing for UPSC. अगर आपके लाइब्रेरी में आप अदर एग्जाम्स के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो तो आपको ज्यादा घंटे बैठने हैं. ठीक है, that is what the point I'm trying to put across. I don't have any expertise in guiding you towards RBI, NABARD, EPFO and all that, so I'm not going to discuss over that. My only idea was कि यूपीएससी के साथ अगर आपको प्लान भी करना है तो how you should be actually be doing it. ठीक है, now I mentioned that I have tried to discuss the major doubts like आंसर राइटिंग एंड ऑल दैट, जितने भी पर्सपेक्टिव्स थे जो जनरल डाउट्स होते हैं, बट ऑफ कोर्स सम डाउट्स दे आर वेरी टारगेटेड, दे आर वेरी इंडिविजुअल केस टू केस बेसिस वाले होते हैं. ठीक है, एंड इफ यू वांट that somebody is helping you out, planning strategy mein, you have a very peculiar case, you want somebody who can be put you to task, who can actually you could be accountable to that person, you could state your issues, you can plan it out, because maybe you're not good in planning, you don't know how to divide each and every subject. Of course the Keystone 27 mentorship program is for you all. So usually every year I used to start it from September because mains ke time pe zyada focus rehta tha mera. But this time, because for the past 2-3 years I've seen many students wasting months of June, June, July, August. I don't want you doing that. If you feel that without any proper guidance, without hand holding, you're going to waste away these months, बेटर है कि कीस्टोन अभी ज्वाइन कर लो, मेंटरशिप प्रोग्राम अभी ज्वाइन कर लो, अभी से काम करना शुरू कर दो, सो दैट यू डोंट रिग्रेट टाइम लॉस्ट इन द मंथ ऑफ सितंबर कि अरे मैंने लास्ट के 3 मंथ्स वेस्ट कर दिए हैं. बिकॉज आई हैव गॉट मेनी स्टूडेंट्स हु टेल मी द सेम थिंग. सो 27 ज्यादा दूर है नहीं, एंड these months are also equally crucial for you. It's equally crucial for you as it is for the means writing people of 26. ठीक है. So if you feel that this is what is going to help you, mentorship dekho, I've just tried to put it across as one quote that a coach or a mentor is someone who tells you what you don't want to hear, who has you see what you don't want to see, so you can be who you have always known you could be. So it's very easy to talk about and think that yes 12 months hai, पढ़ लेंगे, ये सब manage हो जाएगा, but sometimes doing it on your own is not possible, and especially if you're a person who's not based out of Delhi, you don't have an active sincere peer support, peer group, maybe you're the only person who's preparing for UPSC in your library, in your study, in your university, then of course you need mentorship and guidance. Okay, so if you're interested, get in touch with me, please DM me over Telegram, I'll give you the brochure. Basically, I don't want to toot my own horn, but the only thing that I want to talk about right now is that in the current times, there are so much of distraction. Because courses, material, everything is readily available. It's lot in number. So it's not the issue about content anymore. आज के आप लोग के time में in this particular, recent years, it's not about content, बल्कि you have actually the content overload, information overload. आपको तो filter out करना है. So I'll be helping you out filter, the irrelevant information. I'll be helping out you in planning. I'll be helping you out in motivation. I'll be helping out that on days, on weeks when you don't feel like studying and maybe you're distracted because there's some plan B or some university exam or some other exam going on. तो वहां पे हमें यूपीएससी कैसे मैनेज करना है. Some people work well under pressure, under target, under timelines, under accountability. So for that purpose, I'm here. Okay, and that is all. Of course, there's a lot many aspects which I might have not covered in this, but yeah, this is something which I would say that would really help you get started with the preparation. And of course, jo bhi other queries hai, you can always get in touch with me over Telegram. Okay, so take care everyone. All the very best, and thank you for attending this session.